Hello and welcome to Friday and Namaste Today Live. I'm your host, Sensei Christopher Witecki, and we are streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, X.com, formerly known as Twitter. And now this week, we are streaming on Instagram. So exciting to be here. Hello to all of our subscribers, all of our viewers. I'm your host, psychic astrologer, Sensei Christopher Witecki, at your spiritual service. If you were in our super chat, please say hi and tell us where you are streaming from. Hello, Jill Louise. Hello, Iggy. Thank God it is Friday. Lori Ship, always a pleasure. Allison Gomez, Ida Austin in Brisbane. Wow, all the way down in Australia. We're so happy to have you. Michelle Bell, always a pleasure. Rebecca Delaney. I'm not sure where you're coming from, but hello, Rebecca. Sydney, it's always nice to see you. Evil D, it's been a while in Auburn, California. And Katie Borowski in Las Vegas. Place your bets. Well, everyone, I am so grateful to be here, and we are coming to the end of the Aquarius season. My gosh, it has gone rather quickly. We have a phenomenal show for you tonight. We're going to dive into the astrology going on and how we are this week. The sun enters into Pisces, kicking off a grand slam karmic transit. Also this week, the North Node conjoins Chiron, which means you will heal a jackass moment. And Mars and Venus make love in Aquarius, birthing a new you later this week on Thursday. And later tonight on Astro Mingle, award-winning author, psychic medium, ancestral healer, Dr. Lotte Valentin is here to talk about the mix of medical science and spirit. She's a doctor and she's a medical medium. We're going to find out how that works. But first, let's take a look at the week's moods and your zodiac weather. This zodiac weather is from Saturday, February 17th to Friday, February 23rd, 2024. Looking ahead at your weekend forecast, it looks like the weekend is the wrap-up of the Aquarius vibration. You may feel a little uneasy and you may get tested. Let's drill down. On Saturday, it's sunny and heady. Step 28 means that Earth rules the day. You are manifesting the new rhythm of your life, which basically means you are diving deep into the new frequency you want to live. Also, Venus conjoins Pluto, which means anything that was keeping you from opening up may be stripped away. And with the moon in Gemini, you're feeling kind of heady. On Sunday, it's sunny and nervous. Step 29 means that Chiron rules this day. This is the day where you'll be tested on the new frequency. But for those who are in an advanced state, your mind might be blown by bending space-time. Then at the end, the sun will enter into Pisces, and the moon in Gemini keeps you still very cerebral. Looking ahead at the 5-day weekday forecast, during this week, we're going to dive into the energy of Pisces and reveal the last little filaments of karma you have with yourself. On Monday, it's cloudy and shifting. Step 0 means Pluto rules the day. You'll be hyper aware of your personal boundaries as you shift into the I Sense Pisces state of awareness. And since we have cleared our karma, you are officially opening a new spiritual timeline. And to boot, the North Node will conjoin Chiron at 16 degrees, which means you are officially healing from a prior idiot moment from your past. And the moon is in Cancer, so you are feeling all of this. On Tuesday, it's sunny and heartfelt. Step 1 means that the sun rules the day and your inner child and heart are coming out to play. You are connecting your spirit to your heart, and you could say changing inner channels. With the moon in the mid-degrees of Cancer, you are probably picking up on the feelings of other people. On Wednesday, it's sunny and vibin'. Step 2 means the moon rules the day today, and the moon will be in Cancer and then in Leo. This is the day where you will face emotional karma you have with yourself, but as you face it, you'll find yourself clicking into gear. On Thursday, it's sunny and cognizant. Step 3 means Jupiter rules the day. And so today you are coming to understand your new belief structure that's tied to your new spiritual chapter. You could say you are tuning your frequency, and as Venus conjoins Mars in Aquarius, you're coming into a new base frequency with your inner self. Adding the moon in Leo, you are really feeling good. And then on Friday, it's sunny and floating. Step 4 means that Uranus rules the day. This is the day where you are called to elevate to a higher spiritual light within you. By this time, you can likely identify the new spiritual timeline. And Mercury officially enters into Pisces, so expect your thoughts to go a little foggy.
It's Sirius Joy.
If you are watching on YouTube, please be kind and do subscribe to our YouTube channel, Sirius Joy TV. Hit the bell button so you're notified. And if you don't mind, please like this video right now. Smash that like button so that we pop up in the algorithm on YouTube and we are seen by other astro enthusiasts like yourself. Namaste Today Live is sponsored by SiriusJoy.com, the happiest website in the world. I'm serious about that. And we are on the precipice of a phenomenal program, say that twice, phenomenal program called the 40 Days of Past Lives and Karma. It begins this Monday on February 19th. This is going to be a phenomenal program that's going to walk you through all of your subconscious triggers, all of your karma. We're going to show you how to identify that in your astrological chart so you have some evidence that you can take away with you. And on top of that, we're going to help you to identify the archetypes and perhaps the actual ability to see a past life. Our program includes daily past life journal prompts. So I walk you through each day, setting you up for the big reveal. Like I said, we'll have chart exploration and some understanding of your astrology in order to calculate that past life. This is my personal 11 herbs and spices of past lives and charts. It's actually 12 herbs. And we'll also be talking about some special features from Robbie Hunt. She's going to give us some lectures on different aspects of everything from past lives to religion to sinning and whatnot. We're also going to have an angel connection series with Devin Doer, our angel intuitive. She's going to actually teach you how to connect to your angel by name. We have a special sound dodecahedron activation by Kristen Ryder. And we have special karma release lunar ceremonies with Joe Zammit. The entire team at Sirius Joy is coming full circle here to help people find their past lives. And you will find out here in my next segment why the timing of this is so important. Stay tuned to the end of the show for more details on this program. It's at SiriusJoy.com. Hurry and sign up. The videos are going live this weekend to prepare you. It's going to be an awesome program. You don't want to miss it. So without further ado, why don't we take a look at this week's planets and transits? Oy vey, we're in an interesting time right now. A lot of shift is happening in the world. Lots of headlines happening. I won't go over them right now, but they certainly are aplenty. We have been in Aquarius. This is the wrap-up of it this weekend. In fact, today, step 27 is the active step number. That's why I'm wearing a shade of root chakra. I've been feeling that root chakra hitting me all day long. We are officially launching a new spiritual timeline as of today. And energetically, we began a 30-day exploration of our spirituality and karma starting on Monday. Although at Sirius Joy, we're going to do a full 40 days of this program. Now, the importance of this moment is, I think, more than people realize. Let me back up just a little bit and take us to where we are right now as far as the timing of our times, all right? We are entering into Pisces next week, and this is a big deal. Not because it's Pisces, although Pisces, I do think you're kind of a big deal, but we're really talking about the nature of where Pisces is at this moment. We had Saturn entered into Pisces last year, but let's go back even further. Let's go back 12 years. Can you remember your life in 2012? Do you remember what was going on? I'm in a little bit of a fog over mine. Just kidding. 2012 was when Jupiter was the last time in Taurus, for one. So this was the last time he had a huge growth year. But what's interesting is this was the opening of us activating and becoming aware of our multi-lifetime karma. Neptune entered into Pisces in 2012. Neptune currently is at step 26 Pisces. Neptune will go all the way up to 29 Pisces this year, and then we'll move into Aries next year in 2025. But Neptune and Pisces was a big deal. First of all, it hasn't happened. The last time it was at 29 degrees Pisces was 1860, just before the United States' Civil War. I've talked about this. So it doesn't come around very often. And when it does enter in the sign, what happens is that people's past lives catch up to them. The entire planet's past lives catch up to them. So what happens in low density, or I should say dense consciousness, okay, high density consciousness really is the way to look at it. When we are low vibration, high density, we are shut off from higher frequency energy. Higher frequency energy, think about, a good way to look at this is like cell phone technology. The lower slow waves can carry so much bandwidth. The high waves can carry a different amount of bandwidth. The same is true with human consciousness. Human consciousness, low frequencies are very, very heavy. It's pain, it's suffering, it's sadness, it's depression. And what happened over the last 2,000 years was consciousness has crunched down to these lower frequencies. And so human beings were sort of stuck in this lower frequency energy, stuck in the pain, stuck in their patterns. And although we have subconscious awareness, because we were so caught in the pain and in the present, or so caught up in our attention in the moment, we have not been able to communicate or be in touch with what our subconscious issues are. And by the way, the subconscious spectrum of astrology is Pisces. Pisces is the subconscious, and the subconscious leads to our higher consciousness. So every time Neptune comes into Pisces, no matter how dense this lower frequency happens to be, Neptune shines a light into this density. And so we're able to see through those years at Neptune's in Pisces, we're able to see and detect the stuff going on in the subconscious, and we start to put our patterns together. We start to see, oh, this is a pattern that I've been doing. I'm not acting out. I'm not a bad person. I'm acting out on some sort of a subconscious desire to act out. What's that desire to act out? Now, in the 1860s, that desire to act out might have been just considered subconscious. But now in 2012, as Neptune has moved through this space, we are far more aware of how reality works, of how consciousness works. And so when Neptune went into Pisces, we were realizing, oh, it's me wanting to act out, me wanting to cause trouble, me wanting to sabotage things. It's not due to my childhood per se. It's due to the past life I had that led to the childhood. Now, it doesn't matter if you know the past lives or you know just the childhood, because I believe that childhood is a recreation of our past life stories that we have brought to the table. What makes this particular Neptune in Pisces transit different from the one in 1860 is Pluto in Aquarius. Pluto has now entered into Aquarius for about 4 weeks now. It entered in literally on the first day of Aquarius. It dipped in last year, but it didn't really count. Last year was sort of chipping away at the lock. It didn't get the door open. This year it has opened. In fact, it will open fully this week. We'll talk about that. But Pluto in Aquarius represents the consciousness as far as the density consciousness is concerned. So with Pluto in Aquarius, we are now starting to elevate the density of our consciousness to a higher frequency. And so all of humankind is starting to awaken, whether they like it or not, in their daily life. We're starting to have access to higher frequencies. And so what makes this time special is we have the dual forces of not just Neptune shining a light in the density, which it has done the last time in 1860, but also Neptune shining the light in this density as the density becomes lighter itself. So this is the awakening. This is the light coming into our world. And so for the first time in I don't know how long, honestly, because I'm learning the eras better, the ages. We have been in the age of Pisces for nearly 2,000 years. However, even though it is Pisces and it is an age of Pisces, the entire earth was still in this compacted sort of hibernation of awareness. So the age of Pisces was really the beginning of waking up. You could say the age of Pisces was a dream state that we've been in for 2,000 years. And then the age of Aquarius will be the awakened state, which really doesn't begin for about another 150 years. I believe this is the dawn of the age of Aquarius. So at this moment, so this next week, why this is so important and so magical from a spiritual perspective is this is the first time that we have the ability to not only see our past lives, Neptune and Pisces, to have access to it, but also to see how it turns into frequency and turns into vibration in daily life, Pluto and Aquarius. But with Saturn in Pisces, also, we have the capabilities of making new decisions and new commitments when we discover what these past life patterns are. In simple text, we have the ability to end our karmic cycles because we can see them. We see how it turns into vibration and turns into patterns in life. And we have the authority and the commandment of Saturn to decide and take control of ending that pattern. Really, honestly, since 2012, we have been seeing what these patterns are. And now we have the ability to choose a new pattern. Now, Saturn entered into Pisces last March, about a year ago. Sorry, my timelines are all over the map. About a year ago, Saturn entered into Pisces. And that was when the universe started to demonstrate to you beyond a shadow of a doubt what your karma is with yourself. And it's only been with yourself because Saturn went from 0 to 7 degrees in its transit. And by the way, 7 is the number of Pisces. So I'm amazed at how exact the step system is and how exact the planets play out to the steps. I'm also amazed that in 26,000 years of astrology, I haven't read anyone notice these patterns that are so clear and obvious now that we see them. But Saturn went from 0 to 7 Pisces and then back to 0 in 2023. So Saturn said, basically, you have an issue with this and you have an issue with that. Have you ever felt the judgment of a Capricorn? Where a Capricorn's like, you're lazy, you're no good, you're not tall enough to ride this ride. That's sort of like Saturn is the boss of Capricorn. So Capricorn's boss is Saturn. Saturn came in and has bossed us around in the last year, basically pointing out without a shadow of a doubt what our karmic issues are with ourself. And when I say with ourself, I mean that you fall into depression, or that you go down those negative rabbit holes, or that you self-sabotage, or that you have substance abuses that avoid your pain, or you have suppressed emotional damage. We all have these issues with ourself, issues with Chris being Chris and you being you. And what we saw in this last year was an undeniable evidence of our issues we have with ourselves. Did we always know we had those issues? Yes, but now they're undeniable. Saturn has crossed her arms and just said, this is undeniable. You have a problem. Okay. So what's the word when they have when they all circle around and tell you have a problem? I can't remember what it's called. Someone tell me. I'm forgetting my mind. Intervention. Saturn basically gave us an intervention in the last year. So now that Saturn's gone from 0 to 7 and back down to 0, Saturn has introduced all these issues. Now Saturn, as of this week, is at 8 degrees. So it's gone all the way back up. Went from 0 to 7, 0 to 7 to 0 to 7. That's what it did, basically. Yeah, I got mixed up there. Now that it's back at 8, we have had everything called out. Okay, we have had our intervention. And now the sun moves into Pisces from 0 to 8 degrees to conjoin Saturn in 8 days. The sun will conjoin Saturn basically next week. And in that time, your heart, as it moves through these degrees, can once and for all adopt the new spiritual timeline or the new spiritual promise you have with yourself. This next week is the week where you officially start the new karmic timeline. Now, what's a karmic timeline? In essence, from what I understand in my studies, when we go back into heaven or we wake up from this dream we call life, we review all the tapes. We have this ability to watch everything in the Akashic and reanimate every moment, every thought, every feeling. and we come to some conclusions about the thing we want to do next. What's the next big adventure that we want to have on Earth? And so we create this spiritual intention list, this bucket list that is known as karma, basically. I believe what karma is. I think there's a lot of, there's a lot of cultures that believe in karma. People say you're not tied to your karma. That's true. You're not tied to your karma. You can do anything you want. You can steer off course. However, you'll start to subconsciously sabotage basically the version of you in heaven will see that the version of you on earth, that the avatar has gone off course. And so you will manifest yourself back onto that course because you're going off script from what you agreed to with your higher self. So yes, you don't have to manifest your karma, but if you don't manifest your karma, your higher self usually will force you back onto the path. In fact, sometimes accidents and injuries or people who die prematurely, from what I've heard, this is just what I've heard from ascended masters and other psychics and, all sorts of different, I just taking it all in. I start to come up with what is a baseline. Near-death experiences. We'll talk to Dr. Lotte today. She's had 2 near-death experiences. Basically, people sometimes who die prematurely, they actually cause themselves to die. They basically reboot the lifetime because the avatar had run way off course and they're dissatisfied. So they just, boom, have an accident, run right off the road, something like that. So I believe that there are planned exits and I believe that there are improvised exits because we weren't on the path of our karma. But what karma basically is we have this bucket list memory of the things that we wanted to achieve on the earth. And I think these have what we call timelines, which are like timelines are sort of like a beginning, middle, and an end of what the soul is going to learn. And so what I'm getting to here probably took longer to get here than I intended. I guess we're going through the timeline right now. Is that this week, what we are doing, from what I can tell, is we are starting a new timeline. That since 2012, we have been ending the timeline that we were on when we were born, which I call the story we were born to. And we are beginning whatever is next on your bucket list in heaven to achieve and to accomplish. And in essence, that's what this week is about. So that's big pie in the sky metaphysics, how it all seems to work. What's the practical? Okay, let's get out of the clouds and get into the moment. The practical is for this next week, you are going to be tempted to do what you did in the past. So there is an opt-out. There is a final test. And the test is completely graded by your responses and your actions. So if, for instance, you have this habit of, eating an entire chocolate cake when you're depressed, okay? And let's just say that's your habit. I often use food. Maybe it's that you have a habit of, drinking an entire bottle of gin. I don't know. But you have this habit that has been part of your old story. I would say this week, you will suddenly have a chocolate cake in the house, or you will suddenly be gifted a bottle of gin from somebody, and you will have the opportunity to do that again. Now, it may not be that literal. It might be something very subtle, like you have the opportunity to put yourself down, or you have the opportunity to abandon yourself, or the opportunity to criticize yourself or hyper-judge yourself. And in essence, the way you choose the new timeline is you choose to not respond to the old timeline. You ghost the old timeline, in essence. You get rid of the habit by no longer re-engaging with the habit. So you could say that we're on a galactic highway this week, and this week you don't want to miss your exit. All right. Now, I do believe that by next week, when the sun conjoins Saturn, which will be on next Wednesday, February 28th, you will be bitch slapped by the universe. Saturn will slap you. She will slap you. She will knock you down. She will make you trip. So be very careful. I find that around Sun-Saturn conjunctions, people break their ankle, they get into accidents, something happens, and they're always like, why me? And it's basically a warning flare from your higher self in heaven going,
You're not on the right path that I agreed to. This damn avatar is messing up. So in essence, you will be tripped up in a big way. So anything that falls apart this week, anything that seems to go wrong, step back. Ask yourself, am I being saved here from my higher self? Am I being shown, or am I not seeing that there's another way? And so, and by the way, even as Sensei, oh, I have been bitch slapped many times by the universe because I was just so busy. In my case, I'm just so busy trying to achieve, which, by the way, me trying to achieve is the fact that I had the past life memory of a time when I failed. So I was obsessed with achieving the first half of my life. Okay. And so I was a lot of times missing my exit because I was so busy worrying about missing the exit. So it's like, so worried I'm not going to make the exit. I actually missed the exit. So you got to wake up, you got to pay attention, you got to look at the signs. That's the other thing about this week that's really important as well. The signs. In Pisces, yes, they all are. Take the signs literally. Okay. Especially now, take the signs all literally. It's like, oh, that's an interesting coincidence. It's the same golden apple that my father gave me from high school. That's not a freaking coincidence. That is your soul screaming at you with an obvious sign because you're not playing Pictionary very well and you're not figuring out what the code is from your other self. You need to, decode what the mission is. So in essence, this next week is a very exciting week because all of karma, in my opinion, is all based on our relationship to ourself. So you may say, oh, guys treat me horribly. I always date the wrong girl. I'm never respected at work. I never have opportunity come to me. Always a groomsman, never a groom. All this stuff comes up all the time. And it's like, that's all a child of the fact that you self-sabotage, or all a child of the fact that you don't value yourself, all a child of the fact that you have this karmic history of criticizing yourself or abandoning your heart or abandoning your emotions. So although Saturn's going to be in Pisces for another year or more, and that we're going to carry out and change karma in our daily life, we're cutting the roots of the karma. We're pulling that karmic weed out by the roots this week. And so once you've pulled it out by the roots, then trimming out little vines here and there and getting rid of little tributaries or little branches of the karma is super easy because the foundation that created that karma has been rebooted, has been reborn. So I think this is a super exciting time because I don't know how I look, but I have been a hot mess my whole life. I just look good on TV. As soon as this camera goes off, I'm back to my craziness. And I am so happy that I'm finally through, some of these core issues that have riddled me my entire life. Now, does it just magically go away, all these problems that we've had with ourselves? Yes, pretty much. What happens is that once you have the option to do it again and you pass on it, so you do have to have the option to do it one more time and pass on it. You do. There's no way to know you have won, or no way to know that you have achieved unless you are tempted back by the devil and you pass that opportunity. But once you pass that opportunity, from that point on, you are in clear water to create a whole new timeline. And you can be assured that any of the echoes that come back to you in daily life as we go through the rest of Pisces, these will have no power because you at the core will have chosen another option, another timeline. So it's an exciting time. Now, in the context of the world, you could say the fate of the world comes down to this next week. You really could say, I mean, there's a presidential election, there's a war in Ukraine and Russia, there's a war in Iran and not Iran. I shouldn't say that. There's a war in the Middle East. I think I was Freudian psychic right there. I hope there's not a war in Iran. There is conflict in the Middle East, but all these different fires and things going on right now. The BRIC system with Russia and China, the economy which is on its teeter-tottering edge of collapsing in its own ways from debt and other things. All these sort of doom and gloom sort of things. Although it seems like all of our power is not within us, like that we can't make any changes in these things, it really comes down to whether or not we in the next week choose to continue our own karma with ourselves. So in other words, if Vladimir Putin decides to keep his own karma, if Joe Biden keeps his own karma, if Donald Trump keeps his own karma, if these world leaders, I'm thinking of I can't think of him now. Bibi keeps his own karma. It's whether or not they continue on their path. Our Congress people, our CEOs, all these people, if they continue to go on the wrong path, then I think we continue on this destructive path. If people decide to take the new path, then I believe the earth moves to a new timeline. So it doesn't really matter other than this next 10 days what happens. This is really where it's settled. Now, when will we understand what path people took? In Virgo. Trudeau, yes, thank you. Trudeau's another one to throw out there. Trudeau is another one. Virgo is when we will find out what path people took. So it will take, just so you know, 6 full months from you making this commitment for reality to keep up, for reality to manifest. That's the cycle of manifestation, is 6 months. Okay. When the sun reaches where the earth was 6 months prior. And that's basically it. Every 6 months, the earth and the sun trade places as we go around the circle. And every 6 months we manifest, but we have several things manifesting every 6 months. So Pisces will manifest in Virgo, then Aries will manifest in Libra, then Taurus will manifest in Scorpio, and so on. So around August. Now, if you watch my Countdown 2024 webinar, or you went to my last webinar that I just did, Trailblazing 2024, you know that we have some major headwinds coming when it comes to this September. September, we're going to have a lot of opposition hitting us energetically. So what you need to do is do the work, face your shift right now, get as far as you can by June with your manifest intentions. The summer is a honeymoon, as I mentioned last week. And then come August and September, we're going to see shift hit the fan, and we'll see how many people have doubled down in the old timeline and how many people are going to move to the new timeline. Now, here's the last thing I'll say, and we'll move on. I do believe that this timeline has been discontinued by the universe. What that means is if you don't go up, you will start to go down. I fully believe there'll be no one allowed standing in this reality any longer. This reality is being discontinued. This timeline is being discontinued. So if you choose to double down and go on the same path again, you will begin to lose your energy, lose your vitality, lose your creativity, because you will be disconnected from your heaven source, disconnected from what your plans are. And so you slowly start to decay. And anyone who insists on staying on the old timeline slowly begins to decay. Energy starts to just break down. So that's the energy of Uranus. That's the energy of Aquarius. Pluto is in Aquarius. Pluto is death. Aquarius is breakdown or breakthrough. You're either going to break through or you're going to break down. And so Pluto is saying all power must now either break down or break through. And so it is, says Pluto. So looking at the week ahead, now that we have that big picture aspect of it, the theme of the week is shifting spiritual perspective. In essence, what's happening is you are going to change the way you look at yourself. That's really all that happens. With all that pomp and circumstance I just talked about, it comes down to you simply looking at you differently. So as crazy as life is, all you have to do is go, huh, and your whole life changes. That's consciousness. Isn't that crazy? But it's true. So all we're doing is shifting our spiritual perspective. What does that mean in literal? That means, oh, I'm not the bastard that was left behind from his father at birth. I'm not the loser my mother called me. I'm not the the little small farm girl that everyone thinks I am. I'm not this. I'm this. And that's basically all that's going to happen. In this week, that's what we're going to do. We're going to shift our perception of us. And as soon as you shift your perception of you, since you are the creator of your reality, everything in your reality starts upgrading and changing and updating according to that shift of perspective. The subplot of the week is a new inner reality, a new inner reality. And where that comes from, the new inner reality, is the earth in Virgo. Since you shift your perspective of how you see yourself, reality now starts to shift. So I am predicting that this week is going to be a lot of moments of blinking in and out of timelines, blinking into reality. I don't know if you're a person. I have experienced a lot of strange psychic conscious phenomena going on since Pluto entered Aquarius, where I'm just suddenly not there. And then I'm back. So I don't know where I went, but I wasn't there anymore. So I think we're going to see this shift of reality this week, of our inner reality in particular, what it's like to feel to be ourself. By the way, this is a great week to start any kind of exercise regimen, any kind of nutrition, any kind of health habit, because the Earth in Virgo is manifesting a change to our body. Almost everyone I know has gone through some major illness, cold, or something since Pluto went into Aquarius, which I think was the body wringing out some of the old reality out of the body, because the body is the embodiment of the soul. And this, if you haven't done it, you will probably this week. So if you put it off, the more you put it off, the more intense it is. So if people have not gotten sick or not cleansed their body, I think there'll be a heavy purge come this week, but you're going to basically feel different in your own skin. And the key question of the week is, what is not real? What is not real? Now, when I say what is not real, I will say that it could have been real last week. Maybe the question should have been, what is no longer real? But also, I think we're going to realize as we come out of our karmic cloud here and we sort of wake up from our cosmic dream, that some things that seem so real, I was so certain that my boss was out to get me. I was so sure that so-and-so was going to lose the election, or I was so sure that this person was going to be prosecuted, or we were just so sure it was going to be this way, and then it wasn't. And you could say, oh, man, I was really wrong. How wrong was I? I'm an idiot for thinking that. Boy, I'm just a dork. Why did I go down that path? That would be one way of looking at it. Another way of looking at it was you actually just changed timelines. On the timeline you were on, your boss was out to get you. On the timeline you were on, so-and-so was going to get prosecuted. On the timeline you were on, women hated you, or men hated you, or you were hated for your skin color. But now that you change your perspective of yourself, you change what is real. So what is not real or no longer real is an evidence of your timeline changing. So be on the lookout for that. I think it's going to be interesting. So let's take a look at the planets themselves, shall we? And sort of bit by bit, piece by piece, go into what we see happening. First of all, there is quite a party going on in Aquarius. We have Pluto, we have Venus, we have Mars, we have Mercury, and we have the sun. It is a party going on in Aquarius right now. We do move to Pisces, but as of today, the sun actually over the weekend will do step 28 and 29 on Saturday and Sunday. And then our heart goes into Pisces at 0 degrees on Monday. And we go from now until next week, we go from 0 to 4 degrees. I think I put, 0 to 4 degrees, basically. So 4 degrees is where I belong with myself. 4 is where you belong with yourself. 14 is where you belong. 13 is where you belong in your life. And 22 is where you belong in the future. So every net 4 is where you belong. 4 is the door to a new reality. So basically, next Friday, I should be broadcasting from a new timeline. So I'll be in another reality if everything goes according to plan, and we'll see what I look like. But energetically, the heart this week is going to explore. First of all, we launch Aquarius. So Saturday and Sunday, your heart is saying, okay, this is where I belong in life. I belong, as the president of my company. I belong as the head of a big family. I belong as the mother of 3 children. I belong, in all these different variables of what life is. So today we are launching where we belong. We're going for where that belonging is with step 27. Tomorrow we hold space and squat on it like a chicken sits on an egg until that egg hatches. On Sunday at step 29, reality will melt. So Sunday is going to be a pretty freaky day with step 29 energy, Aquarius. We're going to probably break the matrix, if you will. Something is going to shift. The reason why I say that is because we have Pluto at the very bottom. We have Pluto. Actually, I have Pluto at the top here. We have Pluto at 0 degrees Aquarius, and then we'll have the sun at 29 degrees Aquarius. And so we'll literally have from Pluto to the sun. Pluto is death. The sun is creation. So basically, you will have from death to creation, the whole spectrum of Aquarius sort of encapsulated between these two planets. Remember, the sun is the center of the solar system, and Pluto is the edge of the solar system. So the entire solar system is sort of vibrating together on Sunday. Now, I've never lived this in my whole life because Aquarius is the door. Aquarius is the door. It is the ability to go to other dimensions. So the fact that we have these 2 points of power at the beginning and end of creation and the beginning and end of vibration tells me that we likely will have some sort of a transdimensional moment on Sunday. By the way, the moon on Sunday will be in Cancer, Gemini, then Cancer later in the day. And so that also, the moon in its own sign of Cancer, that's the best sign for the moon to be in, to also be interdimensional, better than Aquarius, because Aquarius is harder to feel, but Cancer, you can sort of feel through it. So I would be very, very intentional on Sunday. That's all I'm saying. Be very intentional on Sunday with what you put your time and energy into. You could sort of steer off course. All right. Then the sun goes into Pisces on Monday at 0 degrees. And so at that point, our heart is now activating our subconscious. So the sun is the flashlight, and the flashlight shines deep into the subconscious on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, illuminating and bringing light to basically your karmic stories and issues with yourself that you have with yourself, and giving you an opportunity to respond in your heart differently to whatever the stimulus is. So it doesn't really matter what you do. So if you accidentally eat half that chocolate cake, okay, but then your heart realizes that's wrong, I didn't really want to do that, you still change timelines. Okay. So you want to try to correct that. I wouldn't say force it up, but I would say, go eat some vegetables, go do what you intended to do rather than what you didn't intend to do. But anything is reversible. It just is the most easy right now to take care of this. You try ending a bad habit with yourself in May. It's going to be very difficult because you're going to be so distracted by things going on in your daily life. Now, Venus and Mars are both also in Aquarius. These two honeys actually conjoin and make love on Thursday at 6 degrees Aquarius. They are way back. They're catching up in Aquarius. So the sun has trailblazed. Okay, this is what my heart wants as far as vibration and frequency is concerned. Now that Venus and Mars are in this space, Venus and Mars, Venus opens up to the new frequency. Mars closes down the old. So basically, Venus and Mars are going to go through the spectrum of Aquarius and open and close all the doors between the different vibrations and different frequencies that we wanted. But Venus and Mars conjoin together at step 6 Aquarius on Thursday at 6 degrees, which means basically your feminine, your divine feminine, and your divine masculine, he and she, come together to become they, basically. And they become they on this moment. And in that moment, you integrate inside yourself a new frequency. So you could say the energetic spacesuit of your new timeline is born on Thursday, as the sun is at step 3. Also on Thursday, very interesting, Pluto moves from 0 to 1. So Pluto moves to 1 degree on Thursday. So I find this amazing, the synergy of the planets. So as soon as Mars and Venus forge a new vibration, Pluto closes the door to 1 and says, okay, that's it. The door is not held open between realities. And the sun is at step 3, which means our heart is believing this new timeline. So in essence, you choose the new timeline Thursday, you actually travel to the new timeline Friday, and then you integrate the timeline until next Wednesday when the sun conjoins Saturn. That's the timeline. Oh, it's Wednesday on the beat sheet? Oh, interesting. I'll have to take a look at that. My director is saying it's actually Wednesday that it happens. I might have a typo in my thingy. I will see. Or I typed it up on the beat sheet. One of the two is wrong. Thank you, Sarah. So, lastly, we have Mercury still hanging out here in Aquarius. Mercury this week goes from 19 Aquarius to 0 Pisces. I'll check it out in the charts when we look at the transits, which day it's on. But Mercury goes from 19 Aquarius to 0 Pisces, which means our mind is actually thinking about where this is all headed. So you are basically forming the new vibration inside of you, and your mind the whole time is keeping an eye on what's the destination, where am I headed, where am I going. So to put this in very simple terms, this week you're going to probably say, that's it, enough is enough. I'm going to stop beating up on myself. Therefore, I belong being cool inside myself, not being catty. That would be Mars and Venus coming together, saying, okay, I'm going to be cool to myself. And then Mercury's going, and if I'm cool, well, now I'm definitely heading for that party on Friday night, or I'm definitely heading to that vacation in the fall, or I'm definitely going to put in my application at that job. So on the inside, we're really feeling the transformation of ourself, somewhat like a butterfly, which is actually the logo I finally went through with 40 days of past lives and karma. We chose butterfly as the code. So a lot going on there in Aquarius. But let's move on to Pisces. So the sun moves into Pisces, and we can see we've moved the sun ahead as a courtesy here. We have the sun, we have Mercury joining on Friday into Pisces, and we have Saturn and we have Neptune in Pisces. This week, we already talked about the sun going from 0 to 4. So we sort of decide and believe in a new spiritual timeline. And then this week, Saturn actually moves. So here's what's interesting. On Thursday, and I'm really curious, I'm going to see actually, let me just look and see what day of the week it is, because I don't want to be wrong this whole time. It's a live show, but nope, it is on Thursday. So I actually got in the zodiac weather incorrect, Sarah. So it is on Thursday. This all happens. So on Thursday, when Venus and Mars conjoin, that's the same day that Saturn goes to step 9 Pisces. That's the day when karma goes, okay, the sun's at 3 degrees. I believe this in the timeline. Saturn is the commander in chief. It goes from step 8 to step 9. Mars and Venus conjoin, and we realize, I'm in love with this new version of myself. So really, you could say that the magical day of the week is going to be on Thursday of this week, because that's when everything sort of shifts. What's interesting is Neptune is still at step 26. So we are officially committing to a destiny, committing to a destination, committing to where we want this whole ride to end up. So the power day of the week is Thursday. Moving on to the moon. The moon is in Gemini right now, which is why I keep tongue twisting myself, and will be in Gemini until early Sunday morning. It moves into Cancer around 10:20 a.m. East Coast time on Sunday. So this weekend, with the sun wrapping up 28-29 Aquarius, we are emotionally thinking and feeling and processing ideas. It's going to be a very buzzy weekend. So a lot of buzz, a lot of conversation, a lot of excitement, a lot of molecules bouncing off of things, a lot of discussions about life changing. Then the moon moves into Cancer on Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, and a little bit of Wednesday. And so in essence, Monday, Tuesday, and a little bit of Wednesday, you are emotionally processing all of your karma. So if there's going to be any blue day of the week, it'll probably be on Tuesday and Wednesday, because our heart is going to rule on Tuesday. Our emotions are going to rule on Wednesday. And so Tuesday and Wednesday is when you probably process or grieve any heavy karma you may have with yourself. This one may take a good cry. You might have to break down for a moment and just process of all you've gone through since 2012, but also before that. There will certainly be at least one release emotionally that you have to do. And I would suspect that it's going to be probably Monday or Tuesday. For people who refuse to cry and let it out the organic way, I think your body will take a hit, and you'll likely manifest a flu, a cold, something where you purge, you purge all the water in your system, vomiting, diarrhea, all that sort of thing. It's like you can do it lightly by crying with a little bit of water, or you can do it really harsh with diarrhea and throwing up if you refuse. Those are like your options for excretion. I say go with the tears. They're the easiest, the lightest path to take. But I do think that there will be some purging, most likely on Tuesday and Wednesday with the moon in Cancer. Then the moon moves into Leo. It'll be like the sun coming out after a torrent rain. And then, of course, on Thursday with the moon in Leo, I talked about the moon in Leo on Thursday. On Thursday, Venus and Mars conjoin. Saturn goes to step 9. The sun's at 3. Pluto moves to step 1. All that happens on Thursday. Pluto goes to step 1. Venus and Mars conjoin. The sun's at step 3. And Saturn goes to step 9. All that happens on Thursday. So Thursday is the magic day. The moon's in Leo, so you're feeling your heart. You're feeling where you want to go. It's a party, and I want to get there. And of course, that moon in Leo is what we need for the 4 degrees that rules on Pisces on Friday. So we really figure our heart tells us where we belong. So to put it in more simple terms, you could say that in the first half of the week, you're going to feel where you don't belong. You're going to feel, I don't belong being sad. I don't belong being alone. I don't belong being miserable. You're going to have to process that. And there's going to be pain and probably tears that come up because it's been a painful journey to experience this. Then once you realize what that is and you wring out that emotion, then the sun comes out and you go, but I know where I do belong. And your heart then gravitates to where you do belong. So this 1 week leak is a jubilee of karma. Now there is fear to face. Black Moon Lilith, she's at a steady course of step 15 this whole week. And Black Moon Lilith at 15 means you will face fears around relationships you have to others. I'm guessing that you might realize that some people are not going to be on the next timeline. I think you probably realize this week that so-and-so is not going to make it with you on this journey, or they're going to go a different way. So there might be some minor grieving that we're going to have to say farewell for now until we get to heaven and we compare notes, or at least farewell until I retire, or farewell until I go through this next journey. But we're going to, I think, face some fears of being alone, or facing fears of being rejected because mom's not going to like what I'm about to say, or my wife's not going to like what I'm about to say, or my husband's going to have a real problem with this. We probably will have those fears come up. Do we have to face those directly this week? No, you don't face those directly until 15 degrees of Pisces, which will be 13 days from Wednesday or 10 days from Saturday. I can only do it by the numbers. So you will face fears around relationships. With the world of manifestation, Taurus, Jupiter this week goes from 9 to 10 degrees. And what's interesting, just like Saturn goes from 8 to 9, Jupiter goes from 9 to 10. Jupiter goes to 10 on Wednesday, the day before the big shift. And Jupiter at 10, that's a grandmaster degree for Taurus. Taurus is the number 10. Jupiter is the number 3. So when Jupiter gets to 10, okay, it basically multiplies that 10 times 3, if that makes sense. So this is a super abundant moment for Jupiter. That abundance is inside of ourselves. In other words, that abundance is with your relationship to yourself. So what I'm predicting is come Wednesday, you're going to feel this huge surge of what you are worth. And you're going to realize that this might be painful, that this might come with sacrifice, that your husband or your family or your boss is not going to like what you're about to say, but you're worth it. So you have no choice but to do it. And so I predict you will feel worth it this week to pull it off. Uranus staying cool at 19 degrees, 19 degrees Taurus. So again, as you raise your soul capital on the inside, you raise your manifest potential here in the outer world. Everyone is raising the potential of how well they can manifest. I don't care if you have not been able to scratch 2 sticks together to make a fire your whole life. Uranus and Taurus says that day is over. Everyone's soul potential to manifest is going to a higher degree right now. And then lastly, the Aries consciousness. Aries is a pretty powerful moment this week because this is the moment where we face a jackass part of ourselves and heal it. In fact, it happens on Monday. On the very first day of our karma clearing, 0 degrees Pisces, Chiron and the North Node both conjoin at 16 degrees Aries. The relevance of this means that you will officially be standing in the healed light of a failed action you once did. I call this the jackass moment. This ultimately is another version of karma. Why is it karma? Because it's 16, which adds to a 7. Anything that adds to a 7 is karma spiritual. So the 7s, them coming together at 7 in the sign of 9 means that we are healing and spiritually realizing 7. some sort of 9 issue. A 9 issue is an action. So in essence, in a past life, you went too far, you murdered someone, you got murdered by someone, you fell off the cliff, you made a major mistake, you sent your troops to die in a battle that couldn't be won. There was some jackass moment that happened in a past life. Then in your childhood, you were the reason why the football team lost. So you didn't necessarily send your men to death, but you did lose your Super Bowl. So there's always an echo in this life of where you were a major jackass in the last life. And then in this life, that plays out in something more trivial, like a football tournament or something like that. But the point is whatever that moment was of feeling ashamed about, whatever that jackass moment was, it is officially healed, in my opinion, as of Monday at step 0 Pisces, this new timeline. So how do you look at this? You could see it simply as you are forgiven. And you're forgiven because you have the capacity to forgive yourself and let it go once and for all. So let's take a quick look at the planets here. I am running a little slower tonight, but I'm liking this pace. I like it a little slower tonight. Keep streaming for Dr. Lotte Valentin. How interesting that we have Dr. Lotte Valentin right after Valentine's Day. We did not plan for that, but that's the way it happened. It's kind of interesting. She's so interesting. We're going to talk to her about her life and what she has done and progressed with. She is both a psychic medium and a medical doctor, both. So I can't wait to talk to her. So looking at the planets, as you can see, we'll just start the week off here Saturday. Like I said, step 28, we are manifesting on Saturday the new frequency, 28 next to a 10, 19 next to a 10. So both mind and heart, both at step 10 at the same time. That's not an accident, of course. The moon in Gemini, sort of processing and feeling that we're in a new dimension. So it's dimensional shifts, basically. As I said, Sunday is going to be pretty freaky as we hit step 29. Oh, this is the sun enters Pisces. Here's Sunday. Let's first do Sunday. Step 29 and then Mercury at 21. Notice that Mars at 4. 4 is the door. So our ego opens the door to a new reality as the sun in 29 degrees also opens the door to new reality. So Sunday is a strange energetic day. The moon is at 22 degrees at the moment of it going to 29. So actually calculate it. So actually it's at 8 a.m. and it conjuncts Vesta at 22. So at 8 a.m., don't be surprised if you see your little brother just disappear at the breakfast table. He was eating cereal and he's just gone. He's in another dimension. Something's going to happen. But really, the one of the highlights of the week is this. This is the North Node conjoining Chiron at 16 degrees in Aries. This is the anti-jackass moment. By the way, as soon as this happens, notice the South Node in Libra at 16 degrees. By healing this, you will eventually erase certain relationships because you've had soul contracts based on being this jackass. And once you get rid of that moment, the affiliations are gone. That's part of the reason why I think we're facing fears here with Black Blue Note at 15 degrees. 15 is the relationship degree. Moving along into the week, we hit Monday, Tuesday, we hit step 1, Wednesday, step 2, getting emotional. Then we hit to Thursday, which is what I had wrong on the beat sheet, but got it right here. This is what I was talking about. This is Mars and Venus making love at step 6. By the way, 6 is a Venus degree. So you could say divine feminine wins if there was to be a contest between the two, because the two come together under the step 6, under the rule of Venus. So Venus actually rules this conjunction. Doesn't every woman actually? They have the power of creation. So creation wins here. It's also in orb to Pluto, which is now at 1 degree, meaning that we are now putting the boundaries around a new vibration based on loving ourselves. So this is just an interesting, happy marriage that happens on Thursday. Fascinating stuff going on there. As I'd said, the same day, Jupiter moved to 10 on Wednesday. Saturn will move to 9 later that day. So it's a pretty powerful day, and Mercury is almost out of Aquarius. So again, Thursday, the magic day. This happens at 2 a.m. before we wake up in the United States, but the energy proliferates all day long. And I think that's about it as far as interesting transits. The only thing I'll talk about is on Friday, whoops, going the wrong way there, wrong button. On Friday, step 4 rules the day. So Friday is when I think we go into the new dimension. Notice that at this time here at 8 a.m. Thursday, Mercury at 0, holding space for unlimited consciousness, the Sun at 4, shifting channels, Saturn at 9, taking responsibility to shift channels. So we go to a new spiritual timeline on Friday. And by the way, spoiler alert, the full moon in Virgo is the next day, Saturday, which I will report on in next week's show. Fun stuff there. All righty. Super exciting. I think now it's time to talk about you. Go steep yourself some tea and let's have our weekly tea time. Welcome to Tea Time. This is our weekly horoscope transit, or topic, or part of our show. I guess I'm all over the map today. Between timelines. My tongue is between timelines. I'm still talking the old timeline. Thank you on the mug. Yep. This is my love mug. I got it. It's matching my shirt too. So I picked it out for tonight. Picking out mugs is like picking out shirts for me on Fridays. I don't know if you noticed, but they almost always coordinate. Just saying. That's my Leo rising at work. Now, if you're not familiar, every Tuesday we release the horoscopes again for our audience. This is for a couple reasons. One, you can share them with your friends and family. So some people can't take a whole 90 minutes plus the astro mingle. And so they just want to know about them. Great. We have a horoscope. The other reason is that we are going to be always kind of like hitting that hump day on Wednesday. So remember, Wednesday is almost always hump day. This week, hump day is on Thursday, technically. But we always want to have our horoscopes out on Tuesday. So you're reminded of your goals by Thursday. And for this week's show, I'm going to talk about 4 areas of your consciousness and of your life for the horoscopes. We're going to talk about what the sun entering Pisces will mean for you. So that means, where are you changing inner karma timelines? Where are you changing your inner karma timeline this week? Where are you shifting your spiritual perspective this week? It will play out in one area of your life. That's what the houses tell us in astrology. And of course, I'm talking about your sun sign first and your rising sign second. So you will somewhere in your life, and I'll talk about where it is in your life, where you're changing the relationship to you in that part of your life. And if you just change the relationship to you in that part of your life, the rest of your life will snap into place. Okay. I love making that sound from being a kid. We used to make those sounds in the back seat while my mom was driving. She'd be like, "Get out." Me and my brothers would be making noises, like all these like fart jokes and noises. Anyways, sound effects, when you didn't have, digital stuff as a kid, you had to use your own body for the weird sounds. So the next thing we'll be talking about after where to change your timeline is the Venus-Mars conjunction. Where will you be marrying your inner vibration together on the inside of you? Where will you be coming together on the inside of you? Where will your divine masculine and divine feminine? And babe, all of us have divine masculine and feminine energy in us, by the way. We all have both genders in us, which is one of the interesting parts about this moment in society. We have a lot of talk about gender fluidity and the right to be any gender. And I agree. I think we're all both genders. I think we all have Mars and Venus inside of us. We all have male and female. We've all had male and female lifetimes. But when our male and female sides come on the same side, which is a Mars and Venus conjunction, then none of you is fighting with none of you. And you are a we for that moment. And in that we moment, you can go we all the way home. So we'll talk about where you are conjoining your masculine and feminine to create a new mirage inside yourself of vibration. Then we're going to talk about Jupiter hitting that Grandmaster step 10 degrees. Where are you going to have this mastery of self-confidence and self-worth boost up? And notice all 3 of these are self, where I shift my spiritual perspective, where I adopt a new vibration to myself, where I feel valuable with myself. So this is this revolution of inner self that happens this week. The perspective, the new vibration, and the new self-worth. So we'll talk about where in your life you are seeing a new self-worth. And then lastly, we have the North Node conjoining Chiron. I'll be reporting on where it is you are healing the jackass moment in yourself. So somewhere in your life, you're healing an accident, injury, mistake, going too far, not going far enough, not being motivated. Mars can go both ways. It's either you went too far or you didn't go far enough, or you didn't get off your astro and try anything. All right. And as always, I'll put here to the side which of the signs we are talking about. Is this right? Yep, right here. I'm backwards on the screen. And I recommend, again, sun sign versus rising sign. Starting with the Aries Trailblazers. Aries, you are entering in a new phase or era. In this new timeline, you have faith in yourself. So this is about a new inner faith, that you are taking a new perspective on what faith is. You're going to have a new realization of what faith is. This might play out in any area of your life because the 12th house can play out anywhere. So it might be from a car purchase. It might be from a relationship. It might be a bonus you get. It might be something you overcome inside of you. It could play out anywhere, but what's happening under the seams is that you have this new inner faith in yourself. Venus conjoining Mars on Thursday means that you then forge this new inner friendship with yourself. You now become besties with yourself. Now, that may sound oversimplified, but name one Aries that has become besties with themselves. I find that Aries feel like they're the greatest, then they make a mistake and they throw themselves under the bus, then they're the greatest again. I think you're hot and cold usually when it comes to your friendship with yourself. I think the new trailblazer Aries is the Aries that is always their own best friend. They're always their own bestie. And that's not to say they're walking on people or taking advantage of others. It just means that you're making sure that you're right with you and that your vibe is right before you go off, marching off into the world. Jupiter hitting Grandmaster Step 10 Taurus says that you will be manifesting a new self-worth as a result. So you're going to feel so much more confident, so much more worthy. All right. And that happens on Wednesday, basically. That happens first. So the confidence actually comes before the realization of the new friend. So that's interesting, isn't that? But with this new self-worth, you basically are ready to go off before your birthday and start making purchases, start investing in things, start, putting yourself at more risk. I'm not saying your health at risk, but I'm saying take a risk, bet on yourself, invest in yourself. You're going to feel the confidence to really do that. And the North Node conjoining Chiron in your sign, that jackass moment could be anything in your behavior. And I love you, Aries, but I know all of you have at least 3 jackass moments. At least 3. That's putting it probably lightly. I'm not calling you a jackass. I'm saying when you call yourself a jackass, I'm just saying you rule Aries. You rule the ability to do that. So unless you've been on the can doing nothing your whole life, you got at least a couple of mistakes to heal from for the Aries. All right. Let me take a little sip here and we'll move on. We're going to take a sip of love here. A little sip of love. Love tastes so good. Taurus. Tauruses are the master builders of the new era, and this new soul timeline deals with you becoming your own friend. So kind of like Aries, but for a different reason, Tauruses in this last karmic line have not been a very good friend to themselves. You've either thrown yourself under the bus, signed yourself up for too much, taken on the weight of the world, tried to finance everything. I mean, I can come up with a million examples of where Tauruses have just really sacrificed themselves. I think it's interesting that, the bull, is either the source of meat or the female bull, the cow, is the source of milk. That's how Tauruses have been. You've been milking yourself for the world for a long time, and it's now time for you to be your own friend first. Time to be grade A pasture happy cow. Okay. So you are forging a new spiritual timeline where you are on the right side of your heart. That's basically what a friend is. When you are thinking out for your own heart. All right. And when you give your own self, your own heart, that benefit of the doubt, and you think in terms of what your heart needs, and you think of you as you go out there into the world and do something, keeping you in consideration means there's more of you to go around. There's more of you to manifest the new era. The conjunction of Venus and Mars is the birth of a new inner discipline for Tauruses. I think Tauruses have disciplined themselves in old world ways, disciplined by, shaming yourself, putting yourself in impossible circumstances, being impatient with yourself, cramming for the test the night before. You've just used a lot of old skill drill sergeant tactics to discipline yourself and be responsible for yourself. So it's new era discipline for the Tauruses on the inside, which is the foundation of a phenomenal career once you are smooth in your self-discipline and smooth in your inner friendship. It's Jupiter at 10 is in your sign, and this is actually you raising the value of self-treatment. So Taurus, it is time to go ahead and spend a little more money on yourself, to go ahead and go the extra mile, go ahead and floss and water pick, okay? like do it all. Go to like a Leo level of self-care, like really raise the level of self-care. It doesn't always come down to money. Sometimes it's about the consciousness and the thought behind the action. Again, we're talking for yourself here. We're not talking for others at all right now. This is all for you. So if Tauruses really want to take advantage of Jupiter finishing through Taurus and conjuncting Uranus in May, then you have to perfect the self-treatment. You must be Kobe beef, massaged and fed this delicacy before you are cut up for the world. I can't believe I just came up with that, but that's funny. Now, the jackass moment for you, Taurus, is past life. It is in spirituality. You were a jackass in a past life. So your jackass moment is subconscious, which means that you're probably always afraid of being a jackass somewhere, somehow. And, but you should know that it's probably this whole treatment of yourself, this new refined Kobe beef treatment is probably that actually makes you realize you're not going to be a jackass anymore. Because maybe, I'm just going on a limb here, maybe you were a jackass because you didn't treat yourself very well. And so now as a result, you ended up making mistakes. So treat yourself really well and heal that jackass subconscious. Gemini. Geminis are clearing their timeline with their inner discipline. So it's weird because each one is one from the one we just did. So I'm like, is that right? Yes, inner discipline. Geminis, your inner discipline has been hot and cold. It's been where your karma has been a mess. Your karma with yourself is sometimes you've got it all together and you follow through, and sometimes you slack off and you start to, lose your attention and you go down different rabbit holes and you don't follow through. So Geminis have not been always reliable and dependable because you haven't been dependable to yourself. You haven't always been there for yourself. So the new spiritual timeline is you are there for yourself. And when you're there for yourself, you can be there for everyone. It's just that simple. Hell, you packed another personality to help you. You're the only sign with two personalities inside of you, guaranteed. So make the other side of you do it. But either way, it's time to be disciplined and stand up for your own self on the inside and forgive yourself for the times that you weren't there. That's quite all right. Now, the conjunction of Venus and Mars has to do with believing in yourself. It's now time to have a full-on calm, conscious belief in yourself, to believe in yourself wholeheartedly and to raise the vibration of your belief. I would say believe first, trust, but verify. That would be how I recommend that you trust and believe in yourself, but you're going to verify that. So a higher vibration of trusting yourself, giving yourself more benefit of the doubt and less doubt. Jupiter at 10 degrees means that you're now feeling very worthy of your inner faith. So now you have a strong inner faith that you did not have before. This inner faith, it's funny. A lot of Geminis blame their mind, like, oh, my mind went here and my mind went there. And I started thinking about the worst case scenario. And it's like, that's because you don't have faith. It's not because your mind is misbehaving. It's that your mind is responding to the fact that you don't have faith. Faith is a feeling. It's not a religion. Okay. It's a feeling. So you have a feeling it's going to work out. It's going to work out. And that's something that the new era Geminis are learning. The mental gems are learning is that faith is a feeling and that your feelings are just as important as those thoughts. Now, the jackass moment for you was with a social connection. You have made a mistake in a past life where you went too far, not far enough in society. Then somewhere in your, up until this age, you also made a jackass moment where you went too far, not far enough for the society. So you've let some world down somewhere, whether that was your family was your world, or if you were born feeling like you were a disappointment to your family, that's actually the past life karma of having been a jackass in society. And then in your family became the society, so to speak, to replay out the wound. But the good news is Geminis are officially healed as of Monday from that jackass moment in society. How many times can I say jackass in one reading? Let's just count. Everyone do a shot when I say jackass. That's what everyone does, a shot. But in essence, it is over now, Gemini. You have nothing to worry about. I think I'm good down for 2 shots here. Cancers. Cancers, your new spiritual timeline is believing in yourself. So the new Cancer believes in themselves. The old Cancer does not believe in themselves. That's basically the different timelines of Cancers. So for you, it's now time to, like I said with Gemini, give yourself the benefit of the doubt. Go ahead and believe in yourself. The new spiritual timeline is everything based on believing in yourself. And by the way, believing in yourself is not having proof. It's having a feeling inside that you're right. And that's how most of the world operates. That's why we get into big debates on Twitter X and all these other places, because people are believing, but they don't have the facts because they believe. They're basing it on their belief. This is how people choose presidents. They base it on their belief. We don't ever have the facts. It's all hidden from us. It's what we based on belief. Belief is based on what your heart, step 1, feels, step 2, means believing, step 3. So what your heart feels is what you can believe in. So it's a new belief in yourself in this timeline. Now, the Venus-Mars conjunction has to do with self-trust. Cancers are going to forge a new level of trust, a higher vibration of trust of themselves. And that trust, I think, has to be vibrational. One of the areas, and I should have said this for the other signs, but I'll go from now on, it has to be a vibrational trust. It's not that you trust because you never made a mistake. It's not trust because nothing bad's ever happened, or you've got a good resume, or you've got a clean record. It's vibrational. You trust because there's a certain vibe that you know you can trust, and there's a certain vibe that you know you can't trust. So it's about identifying the trust vibe and standing in that trust vibe, Cancer. Now, Jupiter at 10 means you have officially become a good friend to yourself. You now have good friendship with yourself, which means your self-worth will now emanate into greater things in society. And now that you trust yourself, now that you believe in yourself, now you are a friend of yourself, anything is possible, Cancer. What was the problem this whole time? Yourself. But the good news is you got it now. So it's time to move forward. Now, the healing of the jackass moment for Cancers is with career and leadership. There was a past life where Cancers chose the wrong team or the wrong side, or they went down with the ship, the Titanic, or they ended up trying to save someone and they lost everything as a result. As a result, in this lifetime, there has been a leadership, parenting, or career jackass moment or 2 that has happened, but you officially are forgiven. And there are no more issues to worry about having made that mistake. Sweep it under the rug, consider like it never happened. And that does mean that we are clear for takeoff when it comes to Cancer successful careers. Watch out, world. The Cancers are coming into the marketplace, and they're far better at caretaking than you are. Another sip here, staying liquidized. Leos, the leaders of love. The leaders of love are actually creating a new karmic contract with self-trust. And self-trust for Leos is based on faith, and faith is based on a feeling. So you will feel that you have faith in yourself, and therefore you can trust yourself. The old trusting of yourself was probably based on mistakes, trespasses, things that screwed up or whatever. But now Leos, the new spiritual timeline is Leos trust themselves. And what's really funny is every Leo in the world you see right now didn't fully trust themselves in some way of their life. So what that means is, as flamboyant and flashy as Leos have been, we ain't seen nothing yet, because now they trust themselves and they have full faith in who they are. So I think we're about to get blinded. Put on some sunglasses. That sunshine from Leos is about to go supernova, because the new spiritual timeline of Leos is they have faith and trust themselves. Now, the Venus-Mars conjunction is also on the same line. It is now basing your marriage, your relationship to yourself, on a frequency. So again, you have probably based your relationship to yourself on how you look in the mirror, or how you perform with boys, or how you perform with girls, or how you perform, in the sports arena or in the job. And so you probably based a lot of that mirage counting on yourself based on outer world stuff. Your vibration needs to be what determines how you relate to yourself. You must now relate to yourself based on the vibe you are getting in yourself. And if you already were there, you were ahead of the curve. Jupiter at 10 degrees Taurus says Leos are now fully self-confident in their ability to discipline themselves and be fair with themselves when they take on responsibility. So Leos have good credit with themselves. They've now got a good credit score with themselves. They know when it comes to showing up, following through, doing the task, you are now loyal and you are now reliable to yourself, which means you can now start writing checks and being reliable to the world. So for Leos, it's new self-trust. It's a new vibrational mirage. It's new inner discipline. And the jackass moment for Leos was you were once very wrong. You once believed in something in a past life that you were completely wrong about. Like you chose the wrong religion in a holy war and your people died, or you went with the losing, you said that, that God was just, a matter of this, and then you died and you realized you were wrong. Like you were really wrong about something. And in this lifetime, you likely manifested something you were really wrong about a person, really wrong about an institution, really wrong about a president, something like that. But it's all good. Your reputation has been wiped clean now. You are now forgiven by yourself. By the way, you don't need our forgiveness. It's your own self-forgiveness. And so now you are officially clean to make the right choices and to follow what you purely believe. And just in time too, because we're upon this new era of high spirituality and ascension. So chances are what you believe is going to be a little kooky according to other people. And so you can't have yourself wondering if you are wrong. You've got to be strong and confident and be that king or queen of the jungle. All right. Virgos. Virgos are the virtuosos in the new era, and you are signing a new soul contract with yourself. Your new spiritual timeline is a new mirage. You are ending old karma with how you treated yourself, how you approached yourself, maybe thinking that there's tons of things wrong with yourself, the part of you that was obsessed with not being perfect enough. This also applies to Virgo risings, by the way. I know many Virgo risings right now in my life where you have really been worried about not being enough. And that's a conditional marriage. You've had conditional marriage to yourself. It is now time to be unconditionally loving to yourself in your relationship to yourself. That's the new era Virgo. That's the unstoppable Virgo, the Virgo who knows that they have got it right with themselves. They look in the mirror and they wink and they know that they're on their own team, and that's not going to change. The Venus-Mars conjunction is a new relationship to your body. Body is no longer a physical part of you. It is a vibrational part of you. So what you are birthing is a vibrational perspective of the body, the health, disease, illness, stress, weight gain, weight loss. It's all vibrational. It always has been, but you just didn't realize it. So this new birth on Thursday is the birth of a vibrational body versus a physical body. The Jupiter at 10 degrees means that Virgos now believe in themselves like they have never believed in themselves before. So you have this rock solid belief. That belief in yourself leads to self-worth. Self-worth leads to self-confidence. Self-confidence leads to abundance. So Virgos are now ready to take a risk in their theories and what they are theorizing as Jupiter moves up through the high degrees of Taurus and really allows you to manifest from that core belief structure, which is based on the core of believing in yourself. The Virgo jackass moment had to do with trust and intimacy. You have either trespassed or been trespassed upon. You have slept with someone that didn't care about you. You have allowed someone in too close that was not the right person for you. This, of course, is a past life wound where you crossed the line or your line was crossed in the past. And so you remanifested a major boundary mess up in this lifetime. But that jackass moment now, when it comes to boundaries or it comes to others, no longer affects you. That means that you are free and clear now to trust because you have healed the time when you trust wrongly, if that's the way to put, or you put the trust in the wrong person. We're now going to shift to a new beverage, straight vodka. Just kidding. All right. Libras. Libras are creating a new spiritual story with their body, their health, and their stress. So, energetically, Libras have always allowed it to get to them and get to their body. They have always broken down in their body from other things in their life getting to them. And that usually comes out in the sense of stress. That comes down and it comes to like health, colds, minor illnesses, things like that. But for most Libras I know, it's like they always have this they have this furrowed brow because they're under so much stress and they're letting themselves live in this stress and live in this stressful moment. And they're constantly worried and stressed out about it. So the new spiritual timeline for Libras is a new relationship to your health and your body, to realize to be compassionate to your own health, to be compassionate to your own body. That is the new Libra, which I call, by the way, the peace artists. So being a peace artist starts with being peaceful inside yourself, and that peace starts with being peaceful inside your body. So making peace with the moment, making peace with the mundane of reality. That is the new timeline of the Libras and the Libra risings. The conjunction of Mars and Venus in Aquarius is in your area of self-love. So self-love is vibrational, Libra. The vibe you vibe inside you is what determines whether you're loving yourself or not. If you have a negative vibe, you're not loving yourself. If you have a high vibration, you are loving yourself. And that's the new definition of your mirage to your inner child. So it's time to keep your inner child on a high vibration of self-love, joy, laughter, etc. The Jupiter at 10 degrees says that you have now raised to a new level of self-worth based on self-trust. So you have now built new trust in yourself, which comes from certain boundaries with yourself. And those boundaries that lead to trust lead to the ability to change and transform your life. So Libras have built up the courage now and the trust and the inner boundary structure to change their whole life, which, by the way, I do believe Libras' lives will be changed by June. That's my prediction. By June, I predict Libras' lives will be changed. I don't think you will recognize your life anymore by June, Libra. Seriously. Now, the jackass moment for you is, can you guess? Relationships. That's right. Of course. A relationship is where you've been a jackass or you've allowed someone to treat you like one. Either way, it's your jackass moment, but don't feel bad. It was a past life issue that had continued into this life, probably your family, and then the first 2 or 3 marriages you had. I know a lot of Libras that are on their 3rd marriage, by the way, which is what you call a master Libra, incidentally. But there is some sort of relationship wound where you went too far, not far enough, or you got crazy, they got crazy, whatever. It's over now. You need to know it's over. The karma's cleared. It will only continue if you made it continue on your own. Otherwise, it's not going to continue. So Libras are now making peace with their health. They are raising the vibration of self-love. They trust themselves like a rock star, and they're no longer cursed, let's say, with relationships. Hallelujah. It's a new day, isn't it? Great day to be alive. Scorpios. Scorpios, you are coming into a new timeline around self-love. And Scorpios with self-love, your karma has always been loving yourself. And you, I think, were under the same illusion that we all were, that the outer world mattered, that the outer world counted, that the way people treated you, the way your family treated you, the way the job treated you was some sort of indicator of how much love you deserve. And that's not true. What Scorpios have come to realize is you are the one that must instigate the self-love, regardless of how the outer world operates. So now that you have stepped into this self-love timeline, everything you love is going to start to bloom, because at the very root of your love is a love for yourself. And by the way, we're talking about unconditional love. It doesn't matter if you have been to jail, if you have made mistakes, if you have ruined, a business or two, or wasted half your life, doing drugs. Who cares? Doesn't matter. Unconditional love is you are perfect the way you are. All right. So it's time to step into that self-love. The Venus-Mars conjunction is that your feelings have to now rise to a higher vibration. The default vibration of a Scorpio's emotional state of awareness needs to start at a higher level now. You need to wake up feeling better. You need to go to sleep feeling better. You need to feel good about you. You need to feel good about yourself, and feel good about your life. Those are the three feel goods. Feel good about yourself, feel good about your life. That is the new foundation of Mars and Venus, the new foundational frequency of Scorpios. They feel good. The Jupiter 10-degree mark has to do with you have reached a new valuable mirage with yourself. You now value yourself more than you have in 12 years. So with this new self-valuing, with really honoring who you are in your mirage, your relationship to yourself, you now raise the bar for how other people must treat you. So you're going to see relationships probably going away and new ones coming in because they were based on the old mirage where you did not value yourself enough. And as a result, you attracted people who did not value as well. So you are now raising the level of your mirage and your self-worth. The jackass mistake has to do with daily lifestyle. Scorpios were taking advantage of at work. They ended up, giving too much away. They ended up being a slave and working for the man. They made mistakes as far as daily life is concerned, maybe mistakes with money or mistakes with equipment or machinery or all sorts of things. But Scorpios made some sort of a lifestyle mistake. It was an echo of a past life where you made a similar mistake, but more severe. But the good news is no need to worry about that mistake repeating. You've now healed that issue with daily life. Scorpios are now on the other side. The quality of life and daily life is going to get only greater and greater going forward from this point. So Scorpios are at a new karma timeline with self-love, a new compassionate timeline with self-love. Their vibration of their emotion is now at a higher degree. Just lost my note here. And they are now feeling very rock solid in their mirage, and they are forgiven for any mistakes they've made in daily life. Excellent. Sagittariuses, the unicorns. Sagittarius, you are changing a story about how you feel about yourself. Your karma has always been in the way you feel about yourself. Did you feel weird about yourself as a kid? Did you feel out of place as a kid? That was your karmic timeline. You're now complete with that karma timeline, and your new karma timeline is that you feel good about yourself. As I just said to Scorpios, you want to feel good about yourself, and feel good about your life. That's the new karma timeline. That the unicorns are always galloping with glitter coming out of them. Don't ask where it's coming out. But that said, Mars and Venus conjoining means that you are now birthing a new attitude about yourself as well. That it's time to raise the frequency of the way you think about yourself, the thoughts of yourself, the responses your mind makes to yourself, the comments you make to yourself about yourself. This must now all be on a higher vibration. So raising the vibe of how you think about yourself with that conjunction. Jupiter at 10 says you've now started to create a daily moment value of how you live in the moment. So it's really about valuing the moment, valuing your health, valuing how you live moment to moment. That's Jupiter at 10. And once you feel valuable in the moment, once you feel worthy in the moment, then you can make your whole life abundant, worthy, luxurious, enjoyable, exciting, exotic, all the things you like to have. So I think Sagittarius are really in a place to build a quality life like they never had before. The jackass moment for Sagittarius is with love, children, or creativity. Somewhere, Sagittarius have just dropped the ball and been a jackass. They have married the jackass. They have been the jackass in the marriage. They maybe weren't there for their kids. Maybe you started a creative project and you canceled the creative project, but the jackass moment with love, creativity, and children is officially healed. So you've reached a moment now where you are ready to go forward with love without any issues of feeling like something bad will happen. The karma around love or jackass creativity is officially over for the Sagittariuses. You're feeling good about yourself. You're thinking good about yourself. You're feeling good in your body. And you're done with the karma around love. Brilliant. And yes, it is time for a drink. It is dry here in Colorado tonight. Capricorns. Capricorns, you are on a new timeline with the way you think about yourself. So your thoughts for yourself are actually what dictates how you are in a karmic timeline. If you think highly of yourself, that's one karmic timeline. If you think of yourself as a loser, that's another timeline. So Capricorns are navigating timelines with how they think about themselves. And so you could say it's an attitude, that the new timeline is this fresh attitude, a crisp attitude, a renewed attitude about yourself. We're talking about when you talk to yourself and when you have self-dialogue, the attitude you take and how you respond to yourself when something happens. If something goes wrong, do you say something nice to yourself? Do you say something mean to yourself? Basically, having the default attitude of faith in yourself is the highest vibration to take. It's super great. Now, with that in mind, the Venus-Mars conjunction has to do with a new way of self-worth. Self-worth is now vibrational for Capricorns. It's no longer based on portfolios, money, who's ever on your arm, what car you're driving, the position of your title. Those are the old Capricorn worlds of feeling valuable about themselves. Now self-worth is a vibe. It's a feeling inside of you. It's not based on anything outside of you. That's the new age captivator Capricorn. And that's what we're calling the new era Capricorns, are the captivators. Jupiter at 10 degrees Taurus says you've now reached a level of self-worth that you've never had before in your whole life. And that self-worth is based on self-love. So loving yourself authentically is what's bringing Capricorns out to be captivators. Loving yourself unconditionally is what's separating you from the new guard, from the old guard. So I believe leadership, an example on earth, Capricorns are going to sell us on the new era. They're going to own, I think, a big part of the new age as far as business is concerned, but it's going to be based on loving yourself, that you're doing this, that you're loving yourself before you succeed versus trying to succeed as a means of loving yourself. It was ass backwards before. The jackass mistake for Capricorns has been in the way they treat their own feelings or have allowed feelings to linger in themselves. So you have had jackass moment with home, with family, with your mother or your nurturing parent, or you have been made to feel like a jackass from your mother or parent, but you allowed those feelings to linger, which is what the jackass part is. We can't let ourselves feel that way for much longer. So whatever issue you've had with mom, emotions, family, foundation, that is now officially healed. You would have to go out and remake the mistake on your own with your own energies and efforts for it to continue. So in essence, Capricorns have a new attitude about themselves. They have a new self-worth that's based on vibration. They have self-love, which is based on unconditional self-love. And they have healed whatever jackass problems they've had with emotions. All right, we're almost there. Aquarius. Aquariuses have a new spiritual timeline with self-worth. And this is a big one because Aquariuses have very much allowed in the old timeline money, success, who you were born into, individuality, the fact that you're so unique and different. You've allowed all these outside things to determine whether or not you felt worthy or not. And that was your karma. That was what you were coming from. You were coming from lifetimes of being the black sheep or the outcast or the misfit. So the new era Aquarius has a natural, unconditionally passionate and faithful self-worth, that you have faith it's going to work out. You have faith that you're worth it. And you base that self-worthiness on your spiritual faith. Now, the conjunction of Venus and Mars is this new birth of how to treat yourself. It's happening in the first decan of your first house. So it's now trying to raise the vibration of how you respond to yourself. Almost like responding to yourself like you do maybe someone you really love. Respond to yourself like the way you wish you were treated by others. So raising the frequency of how you respond to yourself, I think is going to be the birth of that new me rich for yourself. The Jupiter at 10 is your feelings of yourself are what is now valuable. So you've been raising how you feel about yourself to a new value, a new position. And now that you have this new self-worth based on how you feel, now you can actually create a change in everything you feel. You can manifest abundantly because you have this kernel of self-worth based on feeling good about yourself. Next is feeling good about your life, and then feeling good about your future. So Jupiter says you now have rock solid, confident feelings about yourself, and you can build upon them. The conjunction of Chiron and the North Node means that you have this moment where you were communicating or thinking that turned into a jackass moment. So your jackass area is what you have said or what you have thought or where you have gone intellectually, that you went there. That was the jackass moment. A mistake in logic, in reasoning, a mistake in communication. Maybe you stapled something, to the church door and you were hanged or burned at the cross. So whatever that past life issue is, and whatever you put your foot in your mouth in this life, it is officially over. You are forgiven. You have a clean slate now when it comes to thinking and communicating. Don't mess it up. Just kidding. So for Aquarius, it's this new faithful self-worth. It is vibrational self-treatment. It is rock solid, valuable feelings about yourself, and is a complete pardon for any time you have thought or communicated, let's just say, improperly. And then lastly, but never leastly, the Pisces. Pisces, your karma has always been in self-treatment, the way you treat yourself. The way you treat yourself has been part of your karma. You felt guilty. You felt like you owed others. You felt like the world owed you, whatever the case was. Your behavior with yourself, whether that was, being super like straight and narrow, or always at the bar, always intoxicated, whatever the possibility was, that treatment of yourself was based on your karma. So the new spiritual timeline is that you treat yourself unconditionally loving, that you treat yourself with benefit of the doubt, that you have faith in yourself, and you base your treatment of yourself based on that faith in yourself. Okay. Now, the conjunction of Mars and Venus is for you, your inner faith, that your inner faith now is vibrational. Maybe your inner faith in the past was based on conditionally how you were treated, or based on what the world did to you, or based on your success record. But now that faith must be a certain vibration. If you have this vibe, you have faith. If you don't have this vibe, you don't have faith. So elevating faith to a frequency, to a vibration. Jupiter at 10 says you've now cleaned up your act when it comes to the way you talk to yourself and the way you think of yourself. So your thoughts of yourself are now officially positive and have been charged with a positive charge. That means that you're in a great place to create intellectual works of art, to discover something amazing in the universe. Your mind is going to be the honeypot of what you can create from this point forward, because your thoughts of yourself are now valuable and secure. And your jackass moment has been with money. So Pisces have been in a past life done something wrong with money or investments or loss or property or productivity. You've maybe not been productive enough. You started but didn't finish the job. And in this life, as a result, there have been jackass moments with money or investments. So you are officially pardoned from all those jackass moments of money or investments. You have a clean and clear slate now to go forward and invest without any consequence of the past to bite you in the fin. Okay. And as we put this all together, this is the new Pisces, the new dream weaver. The dream weaver Pisces treats themselves with spiritual respect. Their faith is based on a vibration. Their attitude about themselves is positive and valuable, and they're free and clear from any money, debt, or investment karma. All right. Thank you all. It's been a little bit of a slower night. I just think it's the vibe going on, and my throat has been facing the dryness. We are going to have a phenomenal Astro Mingle here. We're going to do a little intermission, a little commercial here. So keep streaming. When I come back, Dr. Lotte Valentin is going to talk about all sorts of things from near-death experiences to being a psychic medium. Keep streaming.
This zodiac weather is from Saturday, February 17th to Friday, February 23rd, 2024. Looking ahead at your weekend forecast, it looks like the weekend is the wrap-up of the Aquarius vibration. You may feel a little uneasy and you may get tested. Let's drill down. On Saturday, it's sunny and heady. Step 28 means that Earth rules the day. You are manifesting the new rhythm of your life, which basically means you are diving deep into the new frequency you want to live. Also, Venus conjoins Pluto, which means anything that was keeping you from opening up may be stripped away. And with the moon in Gemini, you're feeling kind of heady. On Sunday, it's sunny and nervous. Step 29 means that Chiron rules this day. This is the day where you'll be tested on the new frequency. But for those who are in an advanced state, your mind might be blown by bending space-time. Then at the end, the sun will enter into Pisces, and the moon in Gemini keeps you still very cerebral. Looking ahead at the 5-day weekday forecast, during this week, we're going to dive into the energy of Pisces and reveal the last little filaments of karma you have with yourself. On Monday, it's cloudy and shifting. Step 0 means Pluto rules the day. You'll be hyper aware of your personal boundaries as you shift into the I Sense Pisces state of awareness. And since we have cleared our karma, you are officially opening a new spiritual timeline. And to boot, the North Node will conjoin Chiron at 16 degrees, which means you are officially healing from a prior idiot moment from your past. And the moon is in Cancer, so you are feeling all of this. On Tuesday, it's sunny and heartfelt. Step 1 means that the sun rules the day and your inner child and heart are coming out to play. You are connecting your spirit to your heart, and you could say changing inner channels. With the moon in the mid-degrees of Cancer, you are probably picking up on the feelings of other people. On Wednesday, it's sunny and vibin'. Step 2 means the moon rules the day today, and the moon will be in Cancer and then in Leo. This is the day where you will face emotional karma you have with yourself, but as you face it, you'll find yourself clicking into gear. On Thursday, it's sunny and cognizant. Step 3 means Jupiter rules the day. And so today you are coming to understand your new belief structure that's tied to your new spiritual chapter. You could say you are tuning your frequency, and as Venus conjoins Mars in Aquarius, you're coming into a new base frequency with your inner self. Adding the moon in Leo, you are really feeling good. And then on Friday, it's sunny and floating. Step 4 means that Uranus rules the day. This is the day where you are called to elevate to a higher spiritual light within you. By this time, you can likely identify the new spiritual timeline. And Mercury officially enters into Pisces, so expect your thoughts to go a little foggy.
It's Serious Joy, Joy, Joy.
Hello and welcome to Astro Mingle, the spiritual podcast that mingles with the talented light workers and innovative influencers of our time. We are very interested in the nature of spiritual science. That is the understanding of spiritual technology through the eyes of scientific discovery. And our guest tonight is a unique hybrid of both. Dr. Lotte Valentin is an N.M.D. author, evidential psychic medium, medical medium, ancestral healer, and international keynote speaker. She's described as an oracle who has the ability to touch the heights and move into the power of the mystic, prophet, and seer. She's the author of Med School After Menopause, The Journey of My Soul, which is an inspirational story about transformation, healing, and spirituality. Dr. Lotte completed her medical school prerequisites and was accepted into medical school at the age of 54. Dr. Lotte is also the host of her own podcast, which is Dr. Lotte, Science and Soul, and the creator of Healing Your Ancestral Mother Wound, and the creator of Healing Your Ancestral Relationship Wounds. Please assist me in sending waves of love and light and gratitude to welcome our guest tonight, Step 6 Gemini, Dr. Lotte Valentin. Hello, it's so nice to meet you.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you. And I've been looking at your work, and man, you are so unique. I can't say I've been, I mean, I've been in this business for a long time, but I have never met a hybrid like yourself. You are truly a blend of all sorts of different talents in one. And it makes, I mean, I'm assuming it's been part of your spiritual journey. So to you, it's just being you.
Right.
But to the outside, it's a very, especially the time that we live in, a very hybrid, unique energy. And it seems like just watching your interviews and your story and your podcast, it really all begins with a near-death experience in 1992. Is that correct?
That is correct. I was a complete atheist before. I
You
didn't believe in,
were.
you're right. I didn't believe in anything.
Okay. Is that what your childhood was like? Was it an atheist childhood too?
Well, so my father was a general practitioner, a physician, and I
Okay.
had three older brothers. My mom was a little bit more spiritual, but my dad actually grew up going to Sunday school since age 3. He knew the Bible backwards and forwards.
Wow.
We never went to church. I mean, he was actually, it's kind of funny because he was on the board. And Sweden back then, the state and the church was not separated. So if you were born in Sweden, you were automatically a Lutheran. And
Wow.
so I was confirmed because my dad was on the board of the church. So I was confirmed when I was 14, did not believe in anything. I mean, and my dad didn't believe in anything either. So kind of rubbed off. But I just, thought you die, that's it, it's black, you're gone. There is no God, there is no Jesus, there's no angels, there's no afterlife. It's I just did not believe in any of it
Until 1992. So
until
what
1992.
what happened exactly? Did you have an NDE experience?
Right. So I had two NDEs, one in 1992 and one in 1994, and they're very different.
Okay.
But the first one in 1992 happened as I was hemorrhaging. So I was giving birth to my third child, and that child was actually born at between a 7.4 and a 7.2 earthquake. So it was one of the biggest earthquakes, but the damage wasn't that bad because it was actually centered in the desert. But I
Okay.
gave birth in Eastern Anaheim in California. So people who know where Disneyland is,
Oh
that's
yeah.
right. So the eastern part of Anaheim, bordering to the desert, is where that hospital was. So I'm contracting. I'm on the table contracting 3 minutes apart, and the earthquake hits. We lose all the power in the hospital, and the midwives, the nurses, my husband, everybody was leaning over me on the table because I would literally have flown off the table. And you know how
Wow.
they have those little metal trays in the hospital with all the metal instruments? Right?
Yes.
They were levitating. They were just bouncing up and down on those trays. And it was a new hospital and the windows were from floor to ceiling. So I'm
Wow.
lying on this table thinking, this is it. This is one of the moments in my life when I thought I was going to die, which is very different from when I had my NDE in the ER. But at that moment, I said, okay, this is it. The ceiling tiles are going to fall in. We're going to be buried in rubble. There's no way we're going to come out of this. Well, we did. The earthquake stopped, and my labor actually stopped for a while. And because I was that much in a panic. So if you're giving birth and the lion is about to eat you, you're going to stop giving birth, get yourself to safety, and then give
Okay.
birth. Right.
Gotcha.
So so my labor actually stopped. And after about half an hour or so, it started. I gave birth. Then we had the 7.2 earthquake. Finally get to hold the baby. In between all
Did
this.
you consider like you're birthing Satan or something at that point? Like something, or God, maybe the second coming could have been either.
I know. I mean, it's such a crazy story, right? So at this point, we only have a night light because the whole hospital is running on generators. We lost all the power.
Wow. Okay.
So they finally give me the baby to hold. And as soon as they give me the baby, I start screaming to my husband, take the baby, take the baby. And I'm just arching backwards. I'm in so much pain. And that was the first time I hemorrhaged. So all this blood clots came out. They kept me in the hospital for like 2 days. They finally sent me home and said, all right, it looks like the bleeding is slowing down. We're going to send you on your way. So they sent me home. And then 10 days later, my friends were holding a baby shower for me. And I got to the park where the baby shower was going to be. And I went to use the restroom. A huge blood clot comes out, like the size of a man's large fist.
Oh
So
my God.
I tell my friend, I said, something is really wrong. I gotta go. So threw my kids back in the car, drove home, and my parents were visiting from Sweden to help with the kids and everything. Called my husband to come home from work, take me to the ER. We get to the ER. They do a manual visual inspection and they say, well, not much bleeding going on right now. Could have been a second lining that came out, kept me for observation for 2 or 3 hours, and then sent me on my way. No blood work, no ultrasound, nothing. So the next evening at home, same thing happens. I hemorrhage again. We call the hospital. They say, and I'm yelling to my husband, I'm not going. They didn't do anything yesterday. So they said, all right, see the doctor tomorrow morning where you live in Huntington Beach, California. So Friday morning comes, I go to the doctor. He does the same thing, visual inspection, sends me on my way. That afternoon, hemorrhage again, back to the ER. So now I've hemorrhaged, like 3 times already. Go back to the ER. Doctor comes in, visual inspection, says, okay, we're going to keep you for a while for observation. Close the door. I'm lying on this table. So at some point I started bleeding again. And at that point, I'm just thinking, well, at least I'm in the ER. For once, I'm in the ER, right? Not realizing
Right.
how
We can
dangerous.
relax.
I mean, it was like divine intervention at this point because a nurse came to check on me. And I mean, we're down to seconds for me, for my survival. So at that moment, a nurse comes to check on me just randomly. She sees how much I've been bleeding, and I hear the call on the speaker, OBGYN, stat to the ER. So within 30 seconds, this middle-aged physician runs in full speed with a younger physician in tow. Again, we do a manual visual inspection. And as they do that, another huge blood clot comes out. So at that point, I know this is like the
If there's any
fifth
doubts,
time, right? The
meanwhile,
fifth
you've
time.
lost about 2 quarts. Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. It's like there's nothing left, right? So at that point, I try to sit up and say, I'm not feeling too good, but the doctor understood what was going on. So he just pushed me back on the table. At that point, my eyes are closed because I can't keep my eyes open any longer. And I can hear the staff filling the room. And I have a nurse on my right quoting my blood pressure, and I have a nurse on my left trying to place an IV. And at this point, I just feel like I'm falling. It's probably I'm crashing, right? My blood pressure is falling. And the nurse on my right yells out 50/15, hurry.
Oh
So
my God. That's your
right.
blood
So
pressure?
yeah. So at that point, 60/20, now you can't really support a heartbeat. And I'm literally upside down. My head is towards the floor. My feet are up in the air. They're trying to get the blood to my vital organs. Right. So, and I'm thinking, what is taking this nurse so long? Because I didn't know medical procedures. But now, when somebody goes into shock, your veins collapse. That's why they
Wow.
place an IV when you go to the ER sometimes, because if you pass out, go into shock, they have access to your veins. So they can just inject the medication.
Right.
So, but sometimes people say, I don't know why they placed an IV. I didn't need an IV. Well, it's just precaution. So be happy they do that. But back then, I guess they didn't do that. So I'm just
Wow.
lying on this table thinking, what's taking this nurse so long? And it was shortly after that nurse yelled out 50/15, hurry, that I knew I was dying. So that knowing is very different from that experience with the childbirth when we had the earthquake, when I thought I was going to die. A lot of us have been in, close car accidents. You're thinking, oh my gosh, this is it. And then, we survive. But at this moment, I knew I was dying. So here I am lying on this table, and I can feel my soul is starting to separate from my body. So it's like I can feel something is like rising out of me, like separating. And at that point, I knew I was dying. And so what do? I said, well, if there is a God, this is my only hope at this point, because I was confirmed. So I pray to God and I say, I have 3 children under the age of 6. They need a mother, please let me live. And then that was it. I got sucked out of my body and I find myself floating, a couple of feet above my body.
Wow.
But the first thought I have is, how can I be outside my body and still be me? This is not supposed to happen, right? Because I had no beliefs in any of this. So I'm really perplexed that I can still be me. I'm still the exact same person like I am right now. I'm just outside my body being that person. But there is no time. That was another thing that I learned in this first one, that there was no time on the other side, and that I had access to past, present, and future all at the same time.
Really?
And yeah, there's no time, and that drove me crazy for years. And then the unconditional love, the peace. There's absolutely no pain. You're just outside your body. Things are great out there. And then, I got sucked back into my body just as quickly as I had left. So then, that next morning is when I started hearing the spirit world. So I'm lying in this hospital bed and looking, and I can hear my sister-in-law had passed away 10 days earlier. And I can hear her she's in the left corner of my ceiling in the hospital room. And she says, everything is going to be okay. And I'm thinking, now I think I can hear my sister-in-law who is in spirit. And yesterday I left my body. Like, what is this? Right. So I'm very confused because I didn't believe in any of this. So it was really kind of scary at the same time, because I'm thinking, am I going crazy? I can't tell anybody about this. They're going to lock me up. I'm never going to see my kids again. And so the nurse that came in to check on me said, oh, did anything unusual happen yesterday in the ER? She was probably familiar with near-death experience. I'd never heard of it. So I just look at this nurse and I say, no, nothing at all. It was just normal. It's just black, But I didn't have I didn't want to say that because I was so afraid that they were going to think I was crazy, because that's what I thought about people who would have told a story like that. So then I get really sick, and it's a long, messy story. But 2 years later, I have my second near-death experience because I'm struggling with something called bone marrow suppression. So I don't have an immune system, and I'm bruising. I have big bruises everywhere. But then the second experience happened in the middle of the night. And at this point, I'm so used to, feeling really weak, and I'm always holding on to my spirit, like we're not leaving, and just pulling it
Interesting.
back.
It built like a trauma response where you're always worried.
Right. It's like it's just constantly, it's like laying a piece of puzzle, and then the last puzzle piece sticks up and you have to pat it to make it flat. That was the feeling. It's like it just keeps popping out. But I also had bone marrow suppression, so I was really sick. Right. So, but it was that feeling of not being fully back in the body. Like it wasn't, it's like a puzzle piece that didn't get flat with the puzzle. But I also had, we can talk about it after I tell my second experience, but I had a lot of electrical interference. My watches stopped, televisions turned on, VCRs turned off, vacuum cleaners turned on. I mean, it was just a mess.
This is between the first NDE and the second NDE?
Yeah, the watches, it took me 12 years to make a watch tick for 12 months.
Wow.
In the beginning, they only, so that first, the first, we can do the watches right now. So as I put my watch on, so I pretty much slept for 3 months, and my mother-in-law came, my parents changed the tickets back to Sweden several times. And I finally was strong enough to sit up, which is 3 months later. And I put my watch on. This is 1992. So we needed a watch. We didn't have cell phones then. And I put it on, and it stopped. Like after I wore it for a week, and it wasn't that, it was fairly new watch. So it took me 9 months. My baby was 9 months until I had the strength to go to a store. And this is when the bone marrow suppression was just starting. So I get a watch and I bring it home. I went to Target. It's this, you just got to get inside the door to Target, and the watch department is right there. Get a watch. And I wore it for about 5 days, and it stopped. I was so upset because it was such a huge effort for me to just even go to a store. I was so weak. So I bring the watch back, and the ladies at the return counter says, oh, this is really weird. We haven't gotten any other watches back. Go pick out another one. So I pick out another one, wear it for 5 days. It stops. So I bring it back, and I said, they got to have some problem with quality control. It's got to be, a manufacturing problem. I was a business major as an undergrad. So that whole thing with quality control, I knew a lot about operations management. So they said, well, we haven't gotten any other watches back, but go pick out another watch. So I said, all right, I'll take a different brand this time. So I got a different brand, thinking it's quality control. Bring it home, wear it for 5 days, it stops. So then I tell my best friend, and she just starts laughing. She goes, it's not the watches, it's you. You're the one who's making them stop. So by the time my daughter was about 3, I had 16 or 17 watches in my drawer. And after a while, the watches would start ticking again. And I would only get watches that had a second hand, because it's the only way I would know if it was working or not.
Right.
Right. And sometimes they would start ticking again. So I could wear it for a little bit and then wear that watch for a week or two. then put it back in the drawer, take another one that had started. But
Oh.
after a year, the watch ticked for about a month. After 2 years, it ticked about 2 months. And it took 12 years. After 12 years, my watch ticked about almost to the day 12 months. And then I just didn't even wear a watch for a while. I was like, that's it. I'm healed. I'm done. But it was a really long, but obviously something happens. We are magnetic beings, right? We measure our heart rate. And EEG, EEC, it's like all the different electrical impulses that we have within our body. That's how we measure those. So when you have an experience like this, it's no wonder that things get off. But there are people that have it way worse, and it lasts their whole life, and they get mad, the light bulbs explodes and things like that. So there is a lot of studies done on that, but it's got to have something to do with the way we come back, right? The vibrations are off.
Yeah.
So anyway, so then 2 years later, as I'm struggling going through all this, I have my second near-death experience. But this one is so different, and it's really what activated my life path. So in the middle of the night, so this is what happened all the time. I would wake up, my head is pounding because I have too little blood in my body, take my head off the pillow, and my soul feels like it's going to jump out of my body again. But that was my existence. It had been my existence now for 2 years.
Wow.
And so here we are in the middle of the night, same scenario, but this time it just pops out, just like it did in the ER. And it happens so quickly, these transitions, because 1 second you're in the body and the next second you're not. And it's just this instantaneous transition where you leave your body. But this second near-death experience is very different because I was just tumbling through space. So it's almost like it's like a Star Wars movie, like a spaceship flying through space. But then I get to this place, and I call it a mid station because I had this awareness that you could go higher, but you could also be lower. Almost like you go into a skyscraper and you push the floor on the 50th floor, but there's 100 floors in the building. If you get off on the 50th floor, there's floor below you, and there's floors above you, right?
Yeah.
But it was that kind of a feeling. So I get to this place and I hear the most beautiful music, but you can't make this music in the earth plane. I tried. I started to synthesize it for like a week to see if there was any sound that could come close to the sound that I had heard. And I've heard other stories now, other people, and they say the same thing, is you can't find the notes, the tunes of the music when you hear it up there. So I hear this beautiful music. So I'm wondering, where is this music coming from? Because I'm still just me. So I look to the right and I see a little log cabin. And I think it's so funny what we all see or experience. Now I'm Swedish, so it almost looked like a little log cabin sauna. It's like a little, right? But that was my childhood. That's how I grew up. So I see this log cabin and I look inside because I'm thinking the music comes from the log cabin, but it was empty. So then I look to my left and I see a mirror image of the log cabin on the right, but it's also empty. But then I become aware of this bright white light, almost as if you go into a stadium and you have a spotlight all of a sudden shining on your back, but it's also foggy. And so that light sort of just extends to everywhere and surrounds you, and you are in this light. So a bright white light is behind me. And as I'm turning around, I see an outline of angels in the light.
Wow.
And the music is coming from the angels. And I'm completely aware that I'm seeing angels, and I don't believe in angels. All right. So it's fascinating because like here I am seeing angels and the music is coming from the angels. But the light, that bright white light, that is the divine source. That's God, whatever you want to call that. That is what we come from. We are part of that light. We carry that light within us. We return to that light when we go home. That is home. That's our source. That's like the source code. And we carry that in us, but it's just unconditional love, right? It's hard to explain because it's just so much love and unconditional love that you're just completely enveloped by it. So as I'm standing looking at this, I become aware of two spirit guides, one on my right and one diagonally to the left in front of me. And the spirit guide on my right says to the other one, "What is she doing here? She can't be here. She has to go back." Like, let's panic. Like, how did she get here? And I'm like, no, 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 wait a second. How can this be? How can I still be me and be here? And the spirit guide on my left says, if I told you, you won't remember. So there's obviously some kind of mechanism. I've heard other people talk about this too. So there is some controlling mechanism of what we get to remember with the experience itself. And so then it's like I'm standing on the moon, because then it's like an image just appears. Like imagine like a movie screen just appears in front of you and now you're watching. So it's like I'm standing on the moon looking down on the earth, but around the earth there is this, what I call, because this is 1994, silvery glittery fishnet. Because I
Mm.
grew up in Sweden and I spent my summers on an island with no electricity or running water, not even a payphone.
Mm.
And my grandmother would lay fishnets in the ocean and catch fish for the family. And I would be, I finally graduated to be the rower when I was like 7. I was very proud because I had 3 older brothers. Thought it was never going to be my turn. So I would row this little boat for my grandmother. And when she took those fish nets out, they're kind of diamond shaped, and the water droplets sort of shimmer in the morning sunlight. So I'm looking down and I see this, now you can just Google it, grid around the earth, and you get an idea what that looks like.
Okay.
Right? But we didn't have the internet back then. So I searched the San Francisco Public Library from floor to ceiling for anything that could tell me what it was that I had seen. I could not find anything. So after a few years, I gave up. And so anyway, so I see this grid, and the spirit guide says everything on earth is connected to each other, but everything on earth is connected up to this grid. And
Mm.
with that information, I get sent back. But that is now my work today, literally. And so that is
Okay.
what has led me to ancestral healing, to mediumship, going to med school. I mean, it's all become that because we are so much more than we think we are. We
Yeah.
are these spiritual creatures and we're all connected to each other. And that fact that we think we are separate is really an illusion. And if I heard myself talk like this now before I had my near death experiences, I would say she's a lunatic. Right? Like I don't believe in any of that. So I completely understand people that are learning to be, to trust in the spiritual and tuning into that and learning more about it. Because I was that. I was a programmer and a systems analyst for IBM when in my youth. I mean, talk about
Wow.
left brain, methodical, could think 20 steps down the line. And here I am, working with my right brain, but it's become this merging of my left brain and my right brain because they work together now. But
Yeah.
it
And
was a
I know
long
that
journey to get there.
that moment where you're in heaven and you're like, oh, that's an angel. Wait a second. I don't believe in angels. There's a part of you that knew it was. That's what you're
Yeah.
saying. You knew your soul knew it was an angel, but your mind officially had not believed in it. So there was also
Yeah.
this coming out of your own closet there in that moment, huh?
Yes. Yes. No, exactly. Like, how can this be? And I went through that summer. I had stacks of books next to my bed for years trying to find anything. I read, Stephen Hawking, time, like all this physics, why is there no time on the other side? Somebody please explain to me why I'm having these experiences. What is that grid I saw? And it wasn't until when I was in med school. So I started med school 2012. And so this was like 2014, 2015. And
Okay.
I finally told my daughter the whole story of what I had seen because I had just very few people knew the whole story. And my mother-in-law did. She was my spirit guide here on Earth. She right away said, "You had a near-death experience. Let me go get you Raymond Moody's book, Life After Life." And so she kind of guided me on my spiritual journey because she understood how difficult it was for me. Even though I had the experience, I kept thinking, what is this? I mean, was that some kind of a hallucination in the brain? Maybe oxygen, we're lacking oxygen, and then your brain makes these images, but we know now that's not true. So anyway, so I tell my daughter this whole story about the grid, like in 2014 or 2015, and she looks at me and she goes, "Mom, you can just Google that. It's on the internet. It's Google grid around the earth." But I had just put it aside. In the early 2000s, I said, "Okay, that's it. I can't find it in the library, so that's it. I'm just going to put it away now. I have to move on with my life." And so it's kind of funny because it didn't come back at me until then.
What inspired you at age 53 or 54 to go back to med school, especially if you had been on this surreal metaphysical path?
right? So I knew I couldn't go back to being a programmer because I knew I was a healer. I mean, I always wanted to be a doctor since I was as long as I can remember, 3 years old. And
Okay.
my dad would always say, because I was born 1958, so I grew up in the 1960s in Sweden. So,
Okay.
right, so very different time period. And my dad would say, no, 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 don't be a doctor. It takes too long. You want to get married, have kids, just be a nurse. And I said, I don't want to be a nurse. I want to be a doctor. And so then,
Got you.
I ended up meeting an American. I got married, moved to the United States, and then I ended up transferring in from Stockholm's University in Sweden to Boston University. And again, I was thinking, should I be a nurse? Was that right? But the language barrier was so great having just come to this country, right? Like school English, Uncle
Yeah.
Roger takes the train to London to meet Aunt Betty for tea. I mean, it's not, and you're trying to get through a science class. I couldn't
Yeah.
understand anything the teacher said. I would write down my homework phonetically in the beginning and walk around with a dictionary. And I would come home and tell my husband in perfect English, reading my phonetic writing. And I said, "This is a homework assignment. What am I supposed to do?" And he's like, "What do you mean? What you just said?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I don't understand the words I'm using. I don't understand what I'm saying. I just wrote it down phonetically." So, it's a lot of learning English and overcoming that first. So I knew that at this point, when I had everything that I had gone through, I needed to go back to working as a healer of some sort. So I'm on the computer looking for anything that has to do with healing. I'm thinking maybe I could do some online program or something. And I run across this website that says, naturopathic medicine. And it's like, wow, this sounds really cool. It's like Western medicine, but then you learn all the pharmaceuticals and the regular stuff, right? Med school, but you also learn herbal medicine, acupuncture, homeopathy, and other things. So you have a bigger toolbox. You can do so much more for your patients. So then I realized it was a medical school, and I said, oh no, I can't do that. I'm already in my 40s now, late 40s, and I got to do the prereqs. I don't have any of the prereqs. I was a business major, computer science business. So I said, that's it. I closed my computer. I'll look again tomorrow. Walking towards the kitchen, and the spirit world drops in. So now it's been 12 years. This is exactly 12 years. And
Hmm.
I had just declared myself healed because my watch ticked for 12 months. So literally it's been
Okay.
within the same
Interesting.
month. And
Okay.
so, yeah, for you, it's probably really interesting because it's like that. It was like exact period. Tell
Yeah.
my friend, I said, this is it. My watch ticked. I feel good. I'm ready to move on. And so for 12 years, I've had all these spiritual experiences that I can tell you stories about all of those, seeing things before they happen and things like that. So the spirit world drops in on me and they say, there's a couple of messages. One is you have to go to medical school and become a naturopathic physician. You have to combine East and West. You have to bring messages and healing to the people. And you have to write 2 books. No, wait, 3. And I'm looking like I can't see the spirit world at that point. I could only hear them. So I said, what do you mean writing a book? I've never thought of myself as an author ever. And they're like, when the time is right, we will tell you. And they said, but I can't go to med school. I can't be a doctor. I've got to do all the prereqs. And they're like, no, you have to be a doctor. And I said, what do you mean messages? Bringing messages what? What does that mean? When the time is right, we will tell you. For now, just enroll. Within 2 weeks, I was enrolled in the community college to take my prereqs. And I had to start from the beginning because I didn't even have high school biology. So I had to take advanced placement high school biology to get into the freshman biology. So then I had to
Wow.
do my biology, chemistry, organic chemistry, physics, and math, all that I didn't have.
Wow.
And then I applied to med school, and then I got accepted into med school. So I started med school at age of 54 in 2012.
Incredible. And so now, are you practicing naturopathic medicine? Did you end up going down that line and seeing patients and
Hmm.
because you also
Right.
describe yourself as a medical intuitive, so you
Hmm.
have this really, were you at all out of the closet in med school that you,
No,
because
so it's
they're so contrary.
right. It is. Luckily, it was a naturopathic med school, so they're a little bit more hippie,
Yeah.
right, than the regular, but they're pretty. It's way more Western medicine than I thought it was going to be because it's still a medical school and they got to teach you everything that they teach you in medical school. Like the first 2 years is exactly the same. And then it, shifts a little bit as we learn about the other things. But it started, so the interesting part is, so I had all these visitations. It started right away. So like my sister-in-law who that came through, right, the day after my first NDE. And then a year later, my uncle passed away and he came to say goodbye. And I knew it was him. And I expected my mom to call me the next day. And this is like a year after my first NDE. Nobody calls. Another day goes by, nobody calls. On the third day, my mom finally calls. And she says, a little chit chat. How's the kids? How are you? And then she says, I have something sad to share. And I said, yeah, I know. Your brother passed away 3 days ago. And it was this dead silence. And she was like, how did you know that? And I said, he was here. And her response to that was, oh, you're just like your grandmother, her
Oh,
mom.
wow.
So,
Well,
and I
family
knew,
dark secret comes out there.
right, right. And so apparently, and I knew that about my grandma. I knew that she was spiritual because she would say, when we were on the island, she would say, my friend so and so passed away at like at 2 o'clock last night because the bird came and flew into my window, and I knew it was this person. And we would have to get in this little boat and then drive to another island that had a payphone, so my grandmother could call into the city and say, what happened. And sure enough, she was always right. And this does just have a few of those memories.
Mm.
But so all these things happened, over time. I would see an accident. I woke up and I said, there was like 3 slides, and I saw my daughter in the back seat, my middle kid boy in the front seat, and then and then there was a black mark on the sliding door of the van. And those kids were in the car. And then the third image, I'm leaving a note on the windshield of a black sedan car. And I'm like, why aren't there any people there? Why did I not see the police? Why did I not see an ambulance? Like, why am I just leaving a note if there's an accident? So I tell these two kids, because I'm driving them to San Francisco every day because they go to school in the city. And we figured out there's one intersection where we have oncoming traffic when we turn left that we could get hit on the right-hand side of the car. So we cross the bridge, get off the freeway, down to the light, waiting to jog left at the intersection. My kids' noses are up against the window saying, all right, Mom, coast is clear. And we did that for about 2 weeks. And then we were in Walnut Creek, which is East Bay, San Francisco, at the bookstore. We come out of the bookstore. I'm trying to squeeze my car onto the street. And as I'm turning my car to this, it was very narrow and a lot of cars trying to get in. My car scrapes the parked car on the right-hand side as I'm turning right, and it's a black sedan car. So I get out of the car. I see that black, line on the van door, which I had seen in that image. And I just start laughing. I mean, I throw my hands up into the air and look at the sky, and I'm just laughing. The people were just staring at me. They must have thought, like, what is wrong
Hysterical.
with
Yeah.
this crazy woman? And of course, I left this note on the car. The black sedan car was very little damage on it. But, things like that would just happen over time for many, many years. And so that is what has led to working intuitively. But all these things were for me or my kids or a family member. It was all related to me. And it wasn't until I graduated from med school and I met this woman at a conference. I was studying craniosacral therapy. I was waiting for my license and I had taken the boards. And we decided to have dinner. And she said, I'm a medium, amongst other things. She was like a very high level, powerful career woman. And she said, amongst other things, I'm a medium and somebody is here who wants to give you a message. Are you open to receiving messages? I just looked at her and I was just like smirking. I was like, there's no way. And I'm like, yeah, sure. You can tell me what they want to say. And I'm thinking, there's no way she's going to get anything right. I have such a different childhood, different upbringing. My life is not the norm of people. So she starts talking about the fishing and the net and all those things. I was like, okay, I get it. It's my mom. And she kept saying, you have to go to Arthur Findlay College and study mediumship. And I was like, I can't do that. I just graduated. I don't even have my license yet. It was September. I was going to get licensed in October. And I had, my residency lined up. I didn't know if I could leave that. And then she just kept pounding me. You have to go to orthopedic college. It was just over and over. And after the third time, I said, fine, I will go. I don't I don't know how or if they're gonna allow me or, but I'm gonna go. 6 months later, I'm at orthopedic college in England studying mediumship. And
Wow.
and
As
so
a doctor.
as a doctor. So here I am. And I don't, but so I'm still, I mean, it's funny how stubborn I am. And I want proof and proof and proof and more proof. And so
Yeah.
here I am thinking, okay, I mean, it's one thing that the spirit world drops in on me and giving me messages. I get that.
Mhm.
But for me to bring in a spirit for somebody else or somebody else bringing in my family for me, I wasn't sure that was accurate. Could you really do that?
Yeah.
Took me 3 days. It took me 3 days before I trusted it. And I kept saying that was just luck that I got that right. It was just luck. It must have been my brain made all that up and it was perfect. That was her grandma and that was the cake she made for her birthday. She lived next door and she had this country kitchen and she had these pigs and chickens outside her. And, she had coffee with her granddaughter every day. I mean, everything was spot on. And I couldn't, I just kept thinking that was just luck. But after 3 days of doing this, I said, all right, it's not luck. There's something to this. And then that was the journey of becoming a professional medium. But with that, the spirit world started showing up when I was in med school, and there were times when I would see my patients a day or two before I would get that patient on shift.
Wow.
And so,
Okay.
and that was the
Interesting.
spirit world. I would say, I call it the training wheels. They give you these little carrots, and it's just a matter of whether we bite on that carrot or not. We get
Mhm.
messages all the time, and I'm thinking, how many messages did I miss up until this point in my life? Because they're there. It's just that we think it's a coincidence, or we don't listen, or we don't look it up, we don't, investigate it, but it's all there.
Mhm. We
So,
think of it as random or imagination, or it's just so silly and so common that we just sort of start to ignore things like that.
right, exactly. But sometimes you have to follow the clues, right?
Mhm.
You have to look it up and say, okay, why does this keep happening? It's like people see, 1111, they see repeating
Yeah.
numbers. Well, look it up. Well, why do you keep seeing that? There is a reason why you keep seeing it, but you have to take that extra step and investigate it for yourself,
Yes.
right? To grow so that your soul can start to understand, oh, okay, I see it now. There is a deeper, our life has much more of a deeper meaning than we think it does.
Well, from what I've experienced in my own personal life with being, a psychic astrologer, is that what appeared to be there is nothing random. There is
No.
nothing.
Mhm.
Everything is with purpose and everything is with meaning. And I thought the opposite, that it was just all kook, random, just like playing jazz. Like your mind just goes and plays jazz and goes to all these different notes. But you come to realize, like, oh, that really meant something. That little tiny moment where I looked over
Yeah.
my shoulder and I saw the woman in the parking lot. Like, it's sometimes so subtle and so mundane. It's hard to believe that there's a stronger, reason behind it. So there's a lot of suspicion about Western medicine right now. You probably know that.
Mhm.
And I don't want to go down that train necessarily here on this live
Yeah.
show because I know the AI is looking for these words.
Yes.
But ultimately, have you ever had the spirit disagreeing with what you were learning or whatnot, or disagreeing with text or guiding you differently than formal training was training you?
Yeah, I mean, I would say so. Yeah, it works a little bit different. So I work with the spirit guides, and that started in med school. Also, and I would just, hear something. And so you order the extra lab test. You go
Oh,
the extra mile. Once I had a person come in for allergies, but the spirit world said that the person had lung cancer, and they did. And so, to go in that extra mile, then saying it's easy to brush it off because there was nothing really that was to be heard. And usually, lung cancer patients usually cough a lot, but there was nothing that could be really heard when you listen with the stethoscope on the lungs. And so, but because I had heard that, I'm going to order that X-ray. And sure enough, it was. And that has happened with other things like that too. And liver cancer, I had another one with liver cancer. But now, so that was right. That was in med school or just coming out of med school. But what that has transitioned to now is working as a medical medium or medical intuitive. And it doesn't matter what that person tells me on the screen. I say, it doesn't matter what you tell me, like, let's just get as much work as we can in this hour that we have, because for me, it's just, we're trying to figure out what it is that is happening to you, because there's so many things that fall through the cracks in Western medicine that are
Yes.
misdiagnosed, or we just simply don't have the tests for it. And so they go to the doctor, they run the test, they run the regular labs, and they say everything looks good. I don't know. It's probably, it's like a psychosomatic issue. And then they put them on antidepressants, right? Antidepressants, which do absolutely nothing because they're not depressed. They have a problem.
Right.
So, but so it doesn't really matter what they tell me. They can tell me they have IBS and food allergies, and I'll tell them they have something else. And then they'll say, "Oh my God, I had surgery for that a couple of years ago." And I said, "Well, it's still there. So let me tell you what you need to do," and then get them on the right path to say, "What state do you live in? Look it up. This is the kind of doctor you need." And it's really difficult to maneuver. I mean, I went to med school, and it's difficult to maneuver our medical system because we think that when we go to the regular practitioner or family practitioner that is covered by our insurance, that we're going to get the help that we need. But if you don't have one of the things that we actually have a test for, or that we actually learned about in medical school, because there's a lot of things we don't learn in medical school, and it falls outside, they're cramming as much as they can into those 4 years. And it's a lot of the things that you can't miss. Don't miss this thing because the person is going to die if you miss this, right? So it's a lot of that. But there's a lot of all the chronic type conditions are not very well understood or managed, I should say, by Western medicine, because all we do is just suppress the symptoms. But there are ways that many times that we can heal from chronic conditions, but it's just a matter of digging deeper to understand what is the underlying cause of your issue, right? So
Mm-hmm.
people who get like long haul, probably should not say the word because they'll probably tag you, the
Okay.
pandemic that we had,
Okay.
right?
Gotcha.
And there's this
Right.
long haul version of it, right? But people
Right.
typically who that I've seen who get that, they typically have something underlying. It's typically, I would say, not all the time, but it's typically either they have a mold toxicity or they have an environmental toxicity, or they got some other underlying chronic condition that they didn't know they had until they
Gotcha.
got sick. And then that
Gotcha.
sort of got activated, and now they can't get well because they have that underlying issue. But then how do we know? Who knows that you still have a mold toxicity because you lived in a moldy apartment when you went to college, and that was, 15 years ago now, right? That mold is still in your body because it's very difficult to get rid of it. You got to do, depending on what mold you have, because the mold doesn't just let go. You have to sort of bind it, and depending on what mold it is, use different herbs and things to get that out. But it's not until you understand that it's those underlying conditions that's why you're in that predicament.
And Western science would, would not go there unless there was some sort of apparent indicator of that. Do you also, on a spiritual level, so, in our community, spiritual community, I say there's this belief that, dis-ease of the soul creates disease in the body. Do
Mhm.
you see psychically, being a medium, that link between spiritual dis-ease and disease?
Okay, so that's such a hairy
Okay.
question, right? So,
Did I just add
is
an
it
hour to
true,
this interview?
right? So, is it true that our thoughts play a role in our physical health? Yes, we've proved that with science. I can read Bruce Lipton's books, right? He grew different muscle cells, bone cells, fat cells in 3 different petri dishes, depending on the environment they were in. We know that people get well. We know that there's certain the way we process our emotions lead to certain sicknesses. You can read When the Body Says No by Gabor Mate is a good one, right?
Okay.
And there's
Yep.
research backing that. However, there's also a lot of things we get that we incarnated. We were literally born with it. It's the way the tissue was laid down while you were in the womb, but you have no control of this whatsoever. And they're babies that are born with tumors, right? They didn't sit in the womb, process their emotions in the wrong way, or being negative, or having this other spiritual experience, and then came out with a tumor. No, they were born with that. So I would say that I think that there is never just one thing. I think people try to make it too simple. It's never just one thing. I mean, everything plays a role, but you could have been born with this disease and it just didn't show up until you were 25, right? But that the tissue was laid down wrong from the beginning, and now all of a sudden you're the age where this is going to exhibit itself. But and then, the way we process our emotions, the way we're treated in childhood, um, what our parents had, their diseases, not necessarily on the DNA, but ancestrally, we link up with our parents. We repeat the patterns of our parents. Any trauma that was unresolved of our parents or ancestors, if you're the one who's taken that on, you're going to get that. And we know that we pass trauma on the DNA. So they already discovered that, right? So we got the link of the quantum physics that we're linking into everything and everyone that we ever came in contact with, and that includes your ancestors. And they proved that with physics, the people that won the Nobel Prize last year in physics, right? You got two pair of atoms, right?
Teach us actually. No, this is a fascinating part of your work that I was leading to.
Right.
So ancestral healing, basically, yeah, please explain. But basically, there is a DNA connection between taking on the traumas of your parents or ancestors. Is that correct?
Yep. And so they did research studies on Holocaust survivors, and they could see, so they've identified actually genes. FKBP5 is one of the genes, but now there's more genes. And they can see that, things shift because think of it this way. So a lot of, older people, all their parents, they fought in the war, right? World War II.
My
And
grandparents.
so, right, everybody. And so that's still trickling down through the layers. So if they survive then, so let's say your grandpa was in the war. And back then it was, the sirens went off when I was a kid at first Monday at 3 p.m. every Monday of the first Monday of the month, the sirens would go off. And we would always look at each other going home from school. Is it Monday? Is it Monday? Oh, it's Monday. Because we were told if the sirens go off, you run home. Right. And so you're raised with that. And they were still running those sirens when I grew up. But think of the grandpa that was in the war and those sirens went off and the airplanes came in, they're going to drop bombs. He's taking shelter, right? And he's thinking, oh my gosh, this is the day I'm going to die. And this happens over and over. Well, he's going to change his expression of his genes, right? The epigenetics changes the expression of the actual DNA. So then he survives and then he has kids. And then let's say he has a son and then he gets married, he has kids. Now he has a granddaughter, right? The original survivor has a granddaughter. And every time she hears a siren, she gets a panic attack. But she has never had, this is just a very simple explanation, but she's never had anything happen to her where the sirens came, a car accident or fire or anything like that. So it doesn't really relate to her own experiences, but she has fear of sirens, right? So where is that coming from there? Well, that is the epigenetics that's been passed down from grandpa because he's the one who thought he was going to die. But now she thinks she's going to die when she hears the siren.
That's fascinating.
Right? And so it gets passed down. But we do this with so many things. Doesn't matter what it is. It could be, why can't I step into my full potential? Why is it that why do I keep marrying the wrong guys, right? Women, or the guy says, why do I keep marrying the wrong woman? Problems with relationships, problems with relationships to the kids, the parents, the spouse, all these different things typically comes from your ancestors. It's the ancestral patterns, because whatever wasn't resolved by your ancestors, your parents, your grandparents, your great grandparents, and it doesn't matter, you never met them. A lot of people have grandparents that they never met, including myself, because I was the baby. So they were all gone when I was born. I'm still tied to all of that. I'm still tied to their unprocessed things. So when you were a little kid and at Christmas, you said, let's talk about Uncle Billy. And your mom turns to you and says, shh, we don't talk about Uncle Billy, right? Somebody in the family is carrying that wound. Whatever Uncle Billy did, that was not right. and there's some kind of traumatic event, wrongdoing. He hurt someone in one way or another. That was swept under the carpet and it was never resolved. Well, that's now somebody's carrying that wound in the family and dealing with those similar emotions or difficulties. Could be emotional, spiritual, physical, almost. It takes, whatever form. But it doesn't mean that, if you come from a dysfunctional family and you're thinking, oh my gosh, now I have 200 things on my plate. No, you probably only pick 3 or 4. Somebody else is carrying the rest, or it's just going to trickle down to the next generation. Right. Yeah. So that's how I look at it. We take, we take a couple of sticky notes and we say, all right, pass that one down to me. I'll take that one in my next life. I don't know how you feel about the astrology, but I always feel like the astrology is my movie script.
Oh yeah, I mean it's God's lesson plan. It writes the script for every show I do every week.
Right?
I don't have to be creative at all. Like it's all being done. Do you believe that the soul, having seen both the spirit world and the physical world, and also disease and also ancestral healing, do you believe that we choose as a soul, to be grandpa's son or grandson because it's something that we, loud noises have been, bugging me since the millennia, since the Renaissance. I mean, do you believe we elect into that ancestral karma?
I think we have a soul plan. And I think that the people that we incarnate with, the soul families, I think we know at least some of the people that we are having relationships with or friends in this life that we know them from another lifetime. I think we just keep coming back as soul families. Okay, last life, I was your kid. This time I'm going to be your dad. Right.
Yeah.
And it's just, it kind of cycles around. But there's also a thread of, what we do in the different lives and what we're doing now. And when I was meditating, this is back in 2018, I was meditating and I saw this row of Buddha statues, but I knew that I could also see like the roof of the like old brick kind of or stone building behind it. And it kept coming back to me. I had to go, it was during lunch hour. I lived really close to the clinic, so I could go home for lunch. I was meditating. I was like, oh, I got to go back. And for 3 days, I kept seeing this image in my head. It wouldn't let go. So then finally I Googled, it's the weekend. I'm like, row of Buddha statues. Like, where could this be in the world? Sure enough, it comes up and it says it's somewhere in Thailand. So then I just kept that on the phone. Didn't even think of, life is busy. I was writing my book and I was like, just kept it on the phone. About a year later, I'm down here in Phoenix. I go back into that meditation. I was like, wow, I wonder what that was. And I knew that I had lived in the building and that I had lived with the monks and that I had come to that place as a 10-year-old boy because my parents were dead. I was like, why were my parents dead? Anyway, so I go back into that meditation. And then this time I see this huge golden Buddha statue, but it's got all glass behind him. So it looks like a mosaic church glass almost. But then there's this other big room and it's a lot of crystal glass things. But I see people in my current life and I'm there as a tourist and I have friends that are with me in this tourist. So it's like, wow, this is weird. This is like present day. So then I look up and I said, okay, where is there a large golden Buddha statue in the world? It was just enormous. Sure enough, there is this glass temple in Thailand and it's still standing where this big golden Buddha statue is. So I'm like, wow, this is really strange. Like, okay, so now I know, and I hadn't even connected that the row of the Buddha statues were actually in the same place. And so then the next night I go back into the meditation one more time and I was like, show me more of what this is. And then I see myself as that little boy and I'm standing by a river. And I know that that temple is across the river where I had seen the Buddha, and that the town is behind me. But then I see people like that are dressed in Western clothing, and this looks like, the 1500s or something in this old clothing. And they come in these little boats on the river, but they're trading goods. They're bringing goods from Europe to be traded. And I was like, wow, this is really weird. Where is there a river? Because this is like in the middle of Thailand. Where is that river? So then I said, okay, well, obviously this is somewhere. And so I started Googling. I was like, Thailand. And every time I got to Thailand, it would say, back out, security warning, like you're about to get hacked. So then I got on Amazon, I Googled Amazon. Finally, there was one book, and I had figured out that there was this place called Ayutthaya in Southeast Thailand. And that's where these buildings were.
Hmm.
There was one book that was sold out of a Goodwill store in like Missouri that was about Ayutthaya. It was the only book I could find. I was like, all right, well, I guess that one's for me.
Mine. Yeah.
Right. So got the book, came, took like 2 weeks for the book to finally arrive. Read the book. Sure enough, in the book, there is a map of the river and where it says that the tradespeople came from Europe. And that's why Ayutthaya was so successful then. But not only that, it talks about the 10-year-old boy. The 10-year-old boy was the son of the king, but there was a commoner called King Prasad, and he killed the king and he killed his wife, so the boy's mom and dad, and he sent the boy to live with the monks. I mean,
Huh.
how would I know this, right? Who's ever heard of this story? So, and then I also knew that I had been killed. And sure enough, in the book, it says that King Prasad let the boy reign as a king for, like a week or two. And then he said, oh no, he's too young. And then he had the boy killed as well because he didn't want him to grow up and then be a threat to him because he wanted to be in charge.
Oh,
But all
wow.
that, everything was in the book, right? What I had seen in that meditation. So, do we have previous lives? Yes, I would think so, right? Because there is this thread running through. I mean, I think we basically do just a variation of what I'm doing now, I did in past lives. And it's like you bring those, I call it the seed bag. You bring your seeds with you from your past lives into this life. So you already have those seeds. You have like all these starter seeds in this life that you brought with you from all your past lives. Now you just got to sow these seeds and let them sprout. And then you're gonna keep going and keep developing these different things that what your incarnation is, but that incarnation goes through many lifetimes.
Mm-hmm.
So, like my horoscope in my last lifetime, the one before that, and the one before that are similar because I
Yes.
lived in a different country. Maybe I was a man, right? But I have the thread of my life keeps going because this is,
Yes.
I've been a healer before, I've been a medium before, but in this life, I'm putting it together. So in those lives, maybe I was just a medium, I was just a healer, right? But now in this life, it's coming together. So that's how I mean, that's my interpretation of how I see that thread of each of the lives bring you to something in the next life.
I see. I mean, in astrology, we have certain aspects that seem to represent carryovers from those lives and indicators. In fact, we're about to kind of explore that as a community here this upcoming week. And one thing interesting, like with astrology, is looking at my grandparents. I was just looking at my grandma's chart recently, and I was like, oh my gosh, her and I have very similar astrological points. One being Chiron and Aries. I mean, that's a every 50-year cycle. So she's 2 50-year cycles before me, but it means we have the same issue, of being afraid of loud sirens or whatever, like it's
Yeah.
so it's fascinating to see the parallels too in the astrology. You can really start to see literally how people resonate with each other. So with the ancestral healing, you do a lot of ancestral healing. I
Mhm.
noticed like that seems to be one of the. Do you? What is your daily function? You have so many hats. Can I hire you to clean houses? Like what? You can tell
Right.
me. The,
Yeah. So I'm pretty much, I mean, I do remote health consultations for people that need help figuring out like what is, how do I get well? How do I get out of this mess? And then I do medical intuitive. So the remote health consultation is more for people who know what's wrong, but they don't know how to get well. They already have a diagnosis, though the diagnosis is sometimes wrong as well, right? Because there's a lot of diagnosis we give to people when we don't know what else that's wrong with them. So we give
yeah.
them that diagnosis, right? Because there has to be a diagnosis of some form on that piece of paper. But then I do a lot of I do evidential mediumship readings, psychic readings. Then I do spirit guides, which is really fun. Because we all have spirit guides, but we all have a
Mm-hmm.
main spirit guide. And that main spirit guide, the way I look at that main spirit guide is we're a reflection of that. That's somebody who lived this life that you're living now or very similar. And so they're experts in what you're learning in this life. And that's your main spirit guide. And that's a really fun session because sometimes people are, what should I do next? And I want to go back to school and I'm not sure if I should do this or that. And that typically comes through in the spirit guide. And then I sketch the spirit guide that I see in like 5 minutes. So I give
Huh.
them a sketch of
And she's
what
a
I
sketch
see.
artist.
Right.
Ding, we're just adding to your resume. And a sketch artist. So
Right.
go ahead.
And that, I mean, the way that it came out too, they kept telling me at Arthur Findlay College, oh, you have to do art, you have to draw. I'm like, you don't understand. I can't draw. I draw stick figures. I don't know how to draw. And then I took one class. After 1 hour, I drew a face. Like I've never drawn a face in my life.
Hmm,
It's the weird thing of
brilliant.
working with the spirit world. And I see a lot of people like that. And I had seen people that had already gone through that. And you just kind of say, all right, here we go. I'm going to just trust that I can do it. That's also, that's surrendering of saying, all right, we can do this because there's nothing that's impossible if we just do it, right?
I agree with you. So are
Right.
spirit guides like retired humans? Do you know the story of how one becomes a spirit guide?
No,
Is that like a role we can do next? I don't even.
right? I mean, I'm kind of pining for that one. That would be kind of nice. Gonna have a rest in between my next life. Just be
Yeah, I would.
spirit guide,
I can totally see myself being a spirit guide. Like that's basically why I'm here on Earth. You
right?
just show up with a cup of tea and just appear like Obi-Wan Kenobi over someone's shoulder. Do you get to know these spirit guides? Do you run into the same spirit? Is it always a unique one spirit guide per person? Like,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah. So there's, there's different, there are different spirit guides. They typically, there's something very, they're typically very attached to that, like culture or, sometimes it could be your spirit guide. I know your spirit guide is from Egypt. They've lived a life in Egypt, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh my gosh, I've been interested in Egypt my whole life. Right.
okay.
Or, they have a Native American Indian and, then the other person's like, oh my gosh, I watch Native American Indians all the time on like documentaries and I can't get enough of it. Well, it's there, right? What is that? But typically we're drawn to something, um, that resonates with that spirit guide. That's why you have that spirit guide, because they're really experts at helping you along on your journey in this life.
That's
So that's really
really
fun,
incredible. So we get assigned an expert in what we're interested in.
right?
Interesting. So know-it-alls end up probably becoming guides. Now, what is evidential psychic medium? I've never heard that phrased that way before by
Mhm.
evidential. Is that a term you came up with, or is that a term I should know?
No, that's a term. It's a real term. So, an evidential psychic medium, it's what you learn if you study mediumship at Arthur Findlay College in England, which is the most, famous, most renowned college for psychic sciences in the world. So, people go to that school specifically. Well, it's really like a little castle. Looks like Hogwarts.
It
Everybody's
sounds
joke.
like it. I'm like in
I mean,
England yet
literally,
too.
if you Google arthurfindlaycollege.org, this sort of castle comes up that looks like Hogwarts.
That's
So
crazy.
everybody jokes about it, like, are you coming with to Hogwarts? But it's so the people that teach there are just amazing people. You don't just teach at Arthur Findlay College. You've done thousands of demonstrations to be a teacher there.
Hmm.
And you've been doing it for, 30, 40 years. This is their life. They do nothing else but that.
Hmm.
And evidential, when you put the evidential in front of it is because when you are taught to bring in a spirit for somebody else, you're taught to show some kind of evidence that if I just say, your grandma's here and she loves you very much. How
Yeah,
do you know that I'm telling you the truth, right? You don't.
right.
So evidential says, okay, I have your grandma here. She lived in the countryside. Like my first reading at Arthur Findlay College was a grandma. And I sat across from this woman that looked so young. And I was like, oh my gosh, this woman doesn't even have anybody in the spirit world because she looks so young. But grandma was there. So that was good. But it would be, so that my first reading is so vivid still. And I
Hmm.
said, okay, this woman, I see her. She's hunched over. She walks with a cane. And she lives, right now, she lives in an elderly home. And she's showing me a cup of coffee. Do you understand this? Person says yes. They can only say yes or no. Yes. Then I said, all right, but she didn't, that's where she is now. But when she was younger, she lived in the countryside and she had this big country kitchen. But when you open the front door, you see chickens and pigs that are running loose. And then there's a fence and there's, like horses behind the fence. Do you understand this? Yes. All right. And then, now
Hmm.
she's showing me a cup of coffee again. Do you understand this? Yes. Okay. And then the last thing I saw was this cake, and it looked like something out of a Disney movie, like the 3-tier cake with the whipped cream and it dotted with the cherries. And I kept saying, no, show it to me again, show it to me again. And after the third time, I said, all right, I'm just going to have to say it because I'll never know what information I get is correct and what's incorrect because you're learning, is
Yeah.
it coming from my brain? Is it coming from the spirit world? You're learning to sort those things out. And so I said, okay, so she's showing me this cake and this is what it looks like. Do you understand this? And she goes, yes. So it turns out this young woman had grown up living right next to her grandmother on the countryside in like Austria or somewhere in Europe. And every day in the afternoon, she would go to grandma's house to have a cup of coffee. And that's why the cup of coffee kept showing up because it was an evidence that that was their connection. They had coffee every afternoon. And the cake was the cake that grandma made for her birthday every year. And it was that 3-tier cake. So that's why it's an evidential medium because you're trying to
Okay.
bring through evidence that the person can recognize. I'm not just saying grandma's here and she loves you, right?
Okay.
That's bad
All right.
mediumship. You want to try and connect the dots. And that's how I got into ancestral healing. I had several readings in a row where I would see the grandmother, and the grandmother was physically abused by grandfather. And then I would
Wow.
see the kids, and I said, I see 3 children, and one of them is your mother. And then your mother, and he was also abusing your mother, but then your mother grew up and she married your dad, but your dad was abusive and he also abused you. He hit you. Yes, that's correct. And I had like 4 of those readings in a row. Like after it, I was starting to think, like, what is this? And that's how I get into ancestral healing because I said, all right, hello, spirit world. What's the message with this? It's the trauma gets passed down, the trauma repeats. And so mom then married the same kind of that person that her father was, and the ancestral wound continued on down the line. And that's what you see a lot in ancestral healing. You see the patterns repeat.
Hmm. I see the patterns. I see the patterns in the astrology too. And what it seems to be is like this is a group of souls that all are coming in the first place with these issues. And then and what your work is showing is like, and they're passing it down genetically also. It
Yeah.
seems it's
Yeah.
fast. Yeah, very
It's like
interesting.
quantum physics and DNA mixed.
Yeah, you're
Right. And
starting
then
to
you have your
see.
own experiences mixed into that too, which is then your own trauma is mixed into that because you actually experienced the trauma, but the trauma is there in the first place because it's an ancestral trauma that's being passed down.
So the DNA is being written by the soul and read by the soul. It seems like it's not just
Right.
physical. Yeah.
Right. Right. Yeah. Right. I mean, you can look at it that way. I just look at it as quantum physics because it's all entangled. We, it doesn't matter, because you can have an ancestral wound that is not coming from a relative,
Okay.
right?
Take
So
us
you can be
there.
right. So you might have been raised by adoptive parents and now you're entangled with them. Quantum physics.
Oh,
You can be entangled. Grandpa had slaves and
okay.
he had those slaves for 20, 30 years. Guess what? You're entangled with that because that was grandpa. And you can have now something that's coming from mistreatment to those people. So it
Okay.
doesn't even have to be, ancestral does not have to be in the direct line of the DNA. It can be coming from other areas. So it can be tricky sometimes to figure out where it's really coming from. But the
Yeah.
spirit world always sends people that, can be resolved quickly. So, it's just the way it is. The spirit world sends me people that I can help.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like you get that you hear somebody on a podcast and all of a sudden you feel like, wow, I should talk to that person. I don't know what
Yeah.
it is, but I just feel drawn to that person. I get that a
Yes.
lot with my clients. I felt drawn to you. I don't know what it was, but here I am, right? And then
Yes.
whatever needs to be healed or come out or guided, that's what happens. But it's like we're connected, we are all connected. And it's in that chart too.
We totally are connected. And
Yeah.
and I've always that's what I've said to, people getting into this business, like worried about competition. I'm like, are you kidding? The client chooses, it's not based
Yeah.
on the better website.
No.
People look at your picture, they get an instant yes or no as to you're the one that has the answer, and they just
Yep.
flock to that person. So you really can't go wrong. How do
No,
you
exactly.
heal ancestral karma? Like, what's the healing process look like?
So the way I work with it, so it's my own way of working with it because I'm trained in mediumship and I'm trained in trance healing. I'm a trained physician. I'm trained in counseling, and
Yeah.
right, and I'm trained in shamanism. And so it has become all of the above. When
Wow.
I when I release that at the end, we do a soul journey. I guide them. So the person doesn't have to do anything. They just, if they want to close their eyes, they can close their eyes. I close my eyes because I work with the spirit world easier that way.
Hmm.
And I guide them on a meditation, and then we do a soul to soul talk with the person who caused that wound in the first place.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Mhm. And
Go
so the
back to
person
the,
doesn't have to say anything, but um, there's always a big shift, sometimes tears because all this that has been carried inside of us, all of a sudden the lights go on and they say, now I see it. I work with psychotherapists, counselors, physicians, and they just laugh. They say, I can't believe I couldn't see it myself. Yeah, I'm
Mhm.
trained to do this. I do this for other people all day long. But I think it's really hard to see our own wounds because we
Yeah.
get so emotionally attached and we're hurt and we don't understand, why I'm feeling this way because like it's too, we're too close to the trees to see them, right? That feeling of somebody else sometimes needs to untangle it for you. And then when you see it, then you're like, oh my gosh, there it is. Now I know why this is happening. And once you understand why you're having an issue, then it's no longer there, right? It's like, I don't know how to tie my shoes, but once you know how to tie your shoes, it's not a problem anymore. You don't trip on your shoelaces. It's the
It's the
same thing. It's like,
awareness of.
yeah,
Yeah.
you have the awareness. Oh, now I know why I have this fear, or now I know why I can't step into my full potential. It's because of that. Now I see it. I don't have to do that anymore. Right. And you can get rid of it. You just kind of like step over it and move on.
And you're kind of like, when I've been through those moments, I'm like, is that it? It's really gone? You know,
Right.
like, is that all
Yeah.
it took? 40 years of suffering. It's just like, and I kind of feel like for me, I found that my strength is what blinds me from my wounds. That, sort of like you get used to having a limp. You don't realize you have a limp.
Yeah.
To survive the trauma, you just get
Yeah.
back up, you keep fighting, and you
Hmm.
incorporate that limp and that pain, and you just get used to the pain, and it just becomes a way of life
Yeah.
to where you almost forget it. And then when someone points out, you're like, what are you talking about? I'm fine, I'm perfect. Ah,
Yeah.
like in
Exactly.
this session, it's like,
Right.
I
Because we
guess.
get used to it. It's our life, right? It's like chronically sick people, they get used to that life. I was sick for many years. I get used to that. My soul is always leaving. I'm always feeling faint, blah, blah, blah. I had a stool in the kitchen because I couldn't stand up long enough to cook for my kids. So I sat on a stool and to flip the pancakes. Otherwise, I'd pass out. But it was
Wow.
my existence, right? You get
Yeah.
used to it, just like you say, you're used to it until
Yeah.
you get well, and then you're like, wow, what was that? But going through it, right? We get used to it.
Would you say that humankind is in fact healing now, maybe for the first time in centuries? I mean, or do you think we've always having people like you and people have always been healing? It just wasn't talked about.
I mean, healers there's always been healers and people healing other people. But I think that it's more of we're healing on a different level. We're healing more spiritually. And there is this, we're raising consciousness. We are more aware and tuning into spirituality. And we have a better understanding that, we're not living on top of the earth. So we are part of the earth. We
Yeah.
are part of the animal kingdom, right?
Yeah.
And so I'd say we're pretty split right now of people that are coming to that realization, and we need to, save nature, and we need to take care of the animals. 'Cause it's all part of our ecosystem, right? We can't just take things from the earth. We have to also give back to the earth. We are part of the earth. So when you look at the way we exist, when you see everything, so like everything, as above, so below, it's so fitting
Right.
because everything is a mirror of everything else, including our emotions, our ancestors, everything comes back, right? It's all reflected. And I say life is like a boomerang. What you throw out, that boomerang is going to come back. So if you throw out negativity, guess what comes back to you? Negativity. You throw out love,
Yes.
what comes back? Love. It's like a boomerang effect.
Yeah.
But that is just, how life is. But I think it's difficult for people to see it, but when you look at how we are, and we have, billions of cells inside our body and all these different organs. But if you look at the earth, when you get the liver, what's that? Africa. You got the heart. What's
Right.
that? United States.
That's
Spleen is
brilliant. Yes.
Australia, right? It's like you got that, and then you get the virus, the virus. There's a war going on inside of you. All these cells are trying to kill each other off. It's like, no, we're gonna survive. No, I'm gonna survive. Well, we have the same issue on the earth. We got all these
Yeah.
wars going on. We got all these disagreements going on. But it's like what happens inside your body is also happening on earth, and we're part of the earth. So look at it like all the people on earth could just be blood cells, right? We're the blood cells to
I
the
was just
earth.
gonna say that, but I guess I intuited you.
Yeah, right. So it's like we are all part of that. And then we're
Yeah.
part of the greater planets, the solar system. And that's, you know, go out there and it's just everything is within itself, just like a big giant hologram.
It's beautiful. I've heard that similar analogy. It's like that, we're just that we are a blood cell of Earth, and
Mhm.
we're just, and my whole soul is just one thought of God. Like God had this thought of Christopher,
Yeah.
and then Christopher became a blood cell on the Earth, a white blood cell, I must say. Fighting
Right.
disease. That's
Right.
the blood cell I want to be.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's that's interesting. Do you believe that any illness is healable? That the body can heal anything?
I think it depends on the incarnation. So can
Okay.
we, so it depends how you look at it. Can we heal anything? Of course, we can heal everything, but everybody is not supposed to heal
Right.
because it depends on your incarnation. Maybe you incarnated to live with this condition and have to struggle for whatever reason. That was your incarnation because then you're going to have this tremendous soul growth. And you thought this was a great idea to have this tremendous soul growth in this life. I think there's everything has meaning, like you mentioned before. Our life has meaning. The suffering has meaning. Do we want to be sick and suffer? No, of course not. I didn't want to be sick all those years. But then I came out on the other end. But if I hadn't had that experience, if I hadn't had somebody told me who does research on NDE said that my NDE is in my chart, but I probably had more in near-death experiences, but I just don't remember them, and that there's certain patterns to those NDEs and things like that. But
Yeah, I see
right,
them. I was going to talk to you about it backstage after.
right. So yeah, so it's really interesting, because we're this, I mean, creative, spiritual beings that have the illusion of being separate, but we really aren't.
Right. And the illusion that this is real, but it really isn't. It's some sort of a simulation that we seem to be in. No matter
Right.
what happens, it's going to turn out okay.
Right. I
As
mean, eventually you go to the other side and that's okay.
right.
Right. So
That's what
you
I
are
mean.
okay. Right. It always
Yeah.
ends, and I mean, your life path. I mean, if you incarnated to have a certain experience, so I think I incarnated to have this experience because this is my work. Right. And I know that this is my work, but I wouldn't be doing this if I hadn't had those experiences and that suffering. I would still be a
Right.
programmer. I would never have evolved to be the person I am today.
Wow, computer programmer to this. I mean, you've come
Right.
so far. Our audience absolutely adores you, by the way. You'll have to come back and read the comments that are coming up in the chat. You have you have many programs on your site. I want to point people to your work. Are you still, I mean, you must have a long wait list. People can get sessions with you at drlotte.com. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah. If you just go to drlotte.com, and you can see, book a spiritual session, and it'll say ancestral healing, medical intuitive, messages from your spirit guides. If you don't know what you need, or if you need a little bit of everything, you do the wholehearted. It's a little bit of everything. Or mediumship is mediumship, because it's different. You prepare differently for a session like that. I typically sit in meditation before I do mediumship, so mediumship is never included in any of the other sessions because I have to prepare myself differently to establish that connection, because we have to raise our vibration. It's the easiest way to think about it,
Mm,
to connect with the spirit world, and then they have to come down and connect with us. So it's more preparation that you do ahead of time versus when you go in and when I work with the spirit guides or work intuitively with people. So that's different. But
that
yeah,
makes
everything is
total
on the
sense.
website. Yeah, everything is on the website, so you can just go there and look at the different sessions I offer.
And you have a master class for ancestral relationship wounds as well. And
Yeah.
okay, to
Mhm.
help people healing that ancestral relationship wound.
Yeah, that's
Would
coming
that
up.
be a romantic relationship wound or any type of relationship wound?
We focus on partner, children, or parents because there's too many
Okay.
relationships, right? So those are the most common ones that people have problems with. So that's going to be a 2 hour class, I believe March 30th. But we just open it up so people can go sign up for that. And that's going to be really fun. I've taught that class before to like Theosophical Society and other places.
I
Um,
bet that gets popular. The astrology shows that people are healing their karmic relationships this year and next year more than ever as far as the cycle. So you might expand.
right?
Well, yeah, yeah, or do it again. Like it's going to be
Right.
popular. You also have your own podcast, Dr. Lottie Science and Soul. What do you talk about in your podcast?
So I bring guests on the podcast that can help people create healing, whether that's spiritual, emotional, or physical. So in terms of bringing different doctors on, I've had surgeons, counselors, acupuncturists, whatever. They will talk about things that fall through the cracks. So like Lyme disease,
Oh
mast
yeah.
cell activation syndrome, MCAS, which is becoming more heard of now, but we don't learn anything about it in med school. So these are the things that typically fall through the cracks. So unless you studied Lyme disease like I did, I studied mold toxicity, I studied environmental toxicity, um, and mast cell activation syndrome. So I see those things. We don't learn anything about it in med school. And neither do Western traditional med doctors either. We learn about, heart attack, stroke, gallbladder, all the main things. That's all they can cram in to those 4 years. So
Wow.
all the things that fall through the cracks are typically, those things. So
Huh,
yeah, it's
yeah.
fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
especially now. It seems like illness is compounding. Like
right.
people seem to be physically more and more ill, which I know has to do with our food, our water, all sorts of
Mhm.
different things. But I would imagine your phone is ringing off the hook. It's an old expression, but still true.
Right.
Well, beautiful. And she also has a book out. It's called Med School After Menopause, which you won a first place spiritual leadership in the Living Now Books Awards.
Mhm.
So that's sort of autobiographical,
Yes.
autobiographical,
Yeah. Yeah.
autobiography.
Autobiography. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know.
Uh,
My mouth is tripping tonight.
right. And yeah, so it's the my near death experiences and a lot of other stories. What happened as my intuition and mediumship unfolded. A lot of different stories, like the van with the accident was one, and there's many other stories like that. And being on an airplane that dropped out of the sky, like those airplanes that like a disaster movie. I was on one of those
Wow.
airplanes too. I don't know. I've had a hectic life,
You
but
have.
all these weird, things,
And
but they're all in the book. My most embarrassing moment is also in the book, which is truly an embarrassing moment. My teenage years. If
really,
you guessed it, yeah, that's what it was.
wow. And you're so light and sweet despite all the
Right.
stuff you've been through. It
Right.
must be the
So
spirit.
it's a
Yeah.
fun book and it's to help people, number one, to know that it's never too late to transform their life, right?
Yeah.
We are if we're going to be 100 years old, which we're looking at now with all the
Yeah.
medical advancements, right? To get a new
Yeah.
heart. Um, when you're in your 50s, you haven't even lived your half adult life yet because you weren't an adult until you were 21.
Yeah.
Right.
It's true.
So,
Yeah.
right. So when you think of it that way, well, you got lots of years left. I know people who are in their 90s that act like they're 70. Right. If I'm going to be
Right.
one of those, right, I got a long way to go still.
Yeah.
So the book talks about it takes
Yeah.
you on a journey of how to develop your own intuition and mediumship by me sharing my own story. And then has little short exercises at the end of each chapter and a message about, the take home message about why I'm telling you that story.
Oh, brilliant. Well, I think people would really enjoy it because a lot of people, I think, feel you're calming people down about afterlife, about being able to heal themselves. Your stories are so important at this time, I think, and I think it's amazing that we're finally starting to open up to this. Imagine if all doctors had your abilities. I mean, my
Yeah.
God,
Right.
You're a
I
trailblazer in
know.
that sense. I think you should be really proud of yourself.
Oh, thank you. I hope to get it to, I'd love to speak at the AMA conference. Yeah, we haven't gotten there yet, but I think it will come. Um, and just share, if once you start sharing, then other people open up. And there's lots of physicians, they have also had near-death experiences.
Yes,
Right? And they've
I
had
met Dr.
patients that have had them, just don't know what it is, maybe.
Yeah, it's sort of like pilots who see UFOs. They keep it to
Mhm.
themselves, you know what I
Right.
mean? And they come to find out it's a
Yeah.
common experience. We've
Right.
all been straight and narrow in the
Oh, yeah.
military, or
Yeah, I mean, I was afraid when I graduated. I was thinking, oh my gosh, like I went through med school, and my colleagues are going to think I'm a total quack if I step into this whole spiritual thing. I was very kind of treading carefully there in the beginning. Now it's like, no, this is my life. This is who I am. I don't care what you think, because I know better now. We are truly these spiritual creatures, and you got to work with all of these parts in order to create healing, right? You can't just work on the physical. You also have to
yeah,
work on the emotional and the spiritual if you're going to truly create healing. And then we still don't know. I mean, did I pull that ticket? I'm going to heal 100%, or am I only going to heal 80%? Right? We don't know what ticket we hold, but you got to work all those different aspects. You can't just work one. Right?
yeah,
Western medicine is like, here's some medication, send you on your way, get you back to work, right? Which can be
yeah.
great if you have some kind of, pain condition or whatever, but it's not going to heal it until you start working on it.
Totally. Yeah. And that's the issue with Western medicine, because it's like whack-a-mole. They put this out, they start a fire over here. They put this fire out,
Yes.
another
Yes.
fire starts. Like there's not this
Yeah.
holistic realization, and
Yeah.
certainly not mind, body, or soul and mind
Mhm.
either. It's like all body, but it's not mind, body, and soul. So
Yes. Yeah. It's like they look at the body as, separate. We're still
yeah,
back in the day with that.
yeah, this
Yeah.
separatist thinking. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I'd love for you to stay backstage for a moment after this, if you don't mind.
All right.
And we'll chat a little bit. I'll talk about the near death I see in your chart.
All right.
And everyone, it's drlotte.com. We put her link in the chat. We put it in the also in our paragraph description. And I hope a lot of people have the opportunity to work with you, because you are just a sweet blessing.
Well, thank you. I enjoyed
Thank
being
you.
here.
We'll
Thanks.
talk again sometime. I'll see you backstage in a couple minutes.
All right.
All right, ciao for now.
All right.
Oh, brilliant.
All right.
That was so nice.
Let me just
Uh,
tell.
oops, here we go. I'm kind of covered. We're getting our graphics down here. I'm caught. Help. There we go. Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. I'm playing around with the director. That was amazing. She was amazing. So pleasant. And I was looking at her stuff before. I do real research on everyone. I think it probably shows. And I was just like, man, what do we focus on? She's got so many gifts and so many talents, but now she put it into such a context that it's just all the tools in her toolkit. Really brilliant work. I highly recommend. I can't tell you how many people I know right now, y'all. So many people I know right now are dealing with mysterious illnesses. They're having difficulty time healing. I loved what she was talking about when she was saying that some of these long-term, from C19, like that a lot of it is actually other things that sort of
Mhm.
that COVID is getting the
I
blame
can't
of.
start my video, just so you know.
Okay.
If you don't see me, it's because I can't undo the video.
Oh, that's okay. We'll be right back. I'm just going to close up the show and I'll be right there.
Okay.
Okay. And maybe Sarah can help with that too. There we go. Awesome. Um, here we go. We'll bring you back on. Let's see here. There we go. Okay. So, anyways, let's wrap up the show. She's waiting backstage. I'm so grateful. First of all, y'all check her out. And if you have any friends who are having issues with illness or having issues that can't be undiagnosed, this is probably the first medical medium that I have met that I feel with 100% certainty could get to the bottom of that. I just have that strong sense about her. So, the timing could not be perfect. Not only was it Valentine's Day and we had Dr. Lotte Valentin, but it is also the beginning of 40 Days of Past Lives and Karma at Serious Joy, this brand new program that we have designed, our whole team of practitioners have designed to come together and help you understand your subconscious triggers, the things that are going on in your chart that point to it, helping you connect to the angels, helping you creating ceremony to release certain things. It's a whole 40-day package. People ask, how long is it? 40 days. And it's doled out. And the brilliance of this program, which came to me from, my spirit guides, is that when we're on step 0, we work on boundaries and trust issues. We're on step 1, we work on love issues. We're on step 2, we work on emotional issues. So the whole program is completely aligned to the actual energy of the astrology, so that by 40 days, you have lived, experienced, released, and moved on. As I said in this show, this is what we're doing astrologically already as a species. Why not get a little help? And by the way, if you've never been to Serious Joy, the first month is just $3.99. And then the last 2 weeks or the next month is $19.95. So for $25, I can help you come on top of your karma and forge a new ego for $25. There's no one doing something at this level. It's because we believe in humanity and we want to help the world. And we want to help you, because if you are helped and you come out of your karma, you're going to go off and you're going to touch a person's life, and you're going to make, love and joy spread around the world. The 40 Days of Past Life and Karma begin this Monday. So sign up right now after this show if you can. As soon as you watch this, sign up. Again, it's $4 if you've never been there, $19.95 if you're coming back. We were going to have past life journal prompts. We're going to explore your chart, all of your past life karma points in your chart. I've got my own special formula of what I look at. This is me sharing my astrological formula I do in personal readings. So you'll walk away. We have ciphers to transform. We have special lectures from Robbie Hunt talking about metaphysics and spirituality and reincarnation and all the deep dive subjects that go around this topic. We have an angel connection series with Devin Doer. She's going to help you through her program through 40 days to connect to your angels, to be able to test those connections, to be able to learn the name of your angel. And by the way, it's not just angels, it's any type of spirit guide there is as well. She's going to open up to the whole realm. We also have actual dodecahedron activation. This is sacred geometry using sound and sacred geometry with Kristen Ryder. This is a platonic solid. So basically what this means is you will integrate all of your lives into one super life by visualizing on this sacred geometry. And then Jo Zaman is going to be on board too with karmic release ceremonies, where she's going to give ceremonies that are tied on the moon to release. I know this is long-winded, but this is my chance to pitch you. It begins Monday. Don't have FOMO. Don't be left behind. Get on the new timeline. It'll cost you $25. It's well worth it. SiriusJoy.com. Now, also on Serious Joy, we have some other features going on this week. Last week, we had our orientation for the 4 Days of Past Life and Karma. That is a video you can watch where we walk through the whole program ahead of time. We have Jo Zaman and Kristen Ryder also walking through their whole program. That video is available to watch right now in the 4 Days of Past Life menu. This week, we're doing a special self-study hall with Robbie Hunt. We're going to focus on the 12th house. So basically, she's going to help you to understand your full 12th house, how to interpret your 12th house, what the planets mean in your 12th house. We're going to have 3 subscribers come on. And every soul support in this 6 weeks is a special soul support group tied to what we are doing. So it's not just, it's a daily recording, it's journaling, it's astrological understanding, and it's live shows, 6 live shows, really 8 live shows total that come in to support and invite you into live chat, and in some cases invite you on camera. So she goes live this Wednesday, her 12th House Mysteries episode on the 21st at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. Again, SiriusJoy.com. It's Serious Joy, Joy, Joy. Sharing is caring. We do appreciate you sharing us with your friends and family. The best way to share is to share a horoscope. Maybe a friend's going through a hard time and they are a Pisces. Send them the Pisces horoscope. Those go live again on Tuesday, the new ones. Also, if people do like to donate, if you'd like to donate, it's paypal.me/Sensei Christopher. We do have a full Facebook group where we allow anyone to come in the group, anyone who's a light worker, to post their own services. This is where I post all of my own personal stuff. If I'm out to eating dinner or whatever, I share all that in the Facebook group. It's at SiriusJoy.Club. We also have a human design group that does live human design and different readings go live. So this is all free, by the way, in the club. If you want to follow me on the rest of social media, you can go to SiriusJoy.Social. We're really grateful for those who are watching us on Instagram tonight. Thank you so much, y'all. I've been watching you watch me. A little paradoxical. So it's super great to have you. And if you would rather listen instead of watch, we do create this in an audio file format on Spotify, Stitcher, and Apple Podcasts. I want to say special thanks to our production team, our producer, Noel Way, our director, Sarah Lyman, my entire wonderful teaching staff at Serious Joy, Robbie Hunt, Kristen Ryder, Devin Dewar, Joe Zammett, and Heather Exposito. And a special shout out and kiss to our super friends in the chat who come every week and make the chat experience so special. Special thanks to Princess Coffee Bean, Jill Louise, Margot Melia, Lori Ship, Nikki Anderson, Libran Lauren, Experimental Elemental, I saw you tonight. Happy birthday to Erica. She turns, I'm not saying what age, tomorrow. Michelle Camper and Michelle Bell. Cat Ryder, my soul brother, Daryl Blankenship. We do 2 dates a week. It's Thursday and Fridays together. Neptune Girl, Jamar, Christine Kelly, and always Iggy. All right, friends, that's all we have for this week. We'll be back next week when we officially are in a new timeline. I still hope you're there with me. Until then, I love you. Live, love, be.